Chapter 1741, The Luo Brothers. After listening to the voice transmission from Guo Lu, Duan Lingtian raised an eyebrow. It seemed like he had heard of the Luo brothers somewhere before this. Great young Miss Wang, have you heard of the Luo brothers? Duan Lingtian asked Wang Feizan through voice transmission when he could not recall where he had heard of them before. Isn't the Luo brothers the two strongest people among the mastery refined saint stage disciples in the Heaven Palace? They're even stronger than Guo Lu. It should be easy for you to defeat any one of them with your current cultivation base. However, if they join forces, you might not necessarily win since you've just broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage. Duan Lingtian rarely initiated conversations with Wang Feizan. She responded as fast as she could when she heard his question, as though she was afraid someone would beat her to it if she was slow to respond. At this moment, she had completely forgotten that Duan Lingtian had communicated with her through voice transmission. Others would not be able to hear their conversation at all. I remember now. Duan Lingtian finally remembered it with the help of Wang Feizan's answer. Previously, when news of him and Guo Lu had come to a draw was spreading in Heaven Palace, he had heard that Guo Lu was ranked top 3 among the mastery refined saint stage disciples in the Heaven Palace. His strength was slightly inferior to a pair of twin brothers, the Luo brothers. However, he did not pay much attention to it because, in his eyes, the Luo brothers' strength was not much different from Guo Lu. If he wanted to, he could easily defeat them. The twin brothers are telepathic. Since Duan Lingtian had only heard about them in passing, he did not know much about them. He was a little curious after hearing Guo Lu and Wang Feizan's words. Senior brother Guo Lu, I don't know the Luo brothers. Why would they challenge me? Duan Lingtian asked through voice transmission. Guo Lu did not bother to hide it and reveal to Duan Lingtian the enmity he had with the Luo brothers previously. He said apologetically, Junior brother Lingtian, I'm sorry. I don't mean to involve you in this. However, both of them had gone overboard. Moreover, I believe it won't be difficult for you to defeat any one of them with your current strength. However, if they want to join forces, don't accept their challenge. Under those circumstances, no one would say anything even if you don't fight them. People would only say they're useless since they can only fight you if they join forces, Guo Lu said again to remind Duan Lingtian. When Duan Lingtian heard Guo Lu spoke about how eager the Luo brothers were to have a duel with him, he already had a bad impression of them. If they were eager to duel in general, it might be just them being eager in the pursuit of the martial Dao. However, the Luo brothers would not even let go of those who had lost to them. For instance, Guo Lu had already surrendered, and yet, they continued with the beating. Moreover, they also provoked him and forced him to attack just to humiliate him. He was disgusted by both their behaviors. Only a saint stage prodigy like Lingtian is worthy of the great young Miss Wang of the tyrannic Saber Mansion. More and more people began to gather around. In addition to the Heaven Palace's disciples, there were also disciples from the Earth Palace, Mystical Palace, and Yellow Palace. The men were looking at Lingtian enviously, and the women were looking at Wang Feizan enviously. Wang Feizan was attractive to the men who were present, but Duan Lingtian was also quite attractive to the women who were present. Shortly after, a middle-aged Heaven Palace's disciple looked at Duan Lingtian and asked with a smile, Junior brother Lingtian, we're all curious about this. Is it true you've broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage after coming out from the spirit pool? As soon as he finished asking his questions, all eyes turned to look at Duan Lingtian in unison. They were all curious about this matter. This included Wang Feizan. 3 days ago, Wang Feizan had asked Duan Lingtian if he had broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage. However, Duan Lingtian only smiled in response to her question. Although she was almost certain Duan Lingtian had broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage, she still wanted to hear the answer from Duan Lingtian's mouth. Duan Lingtian only smiled faintly when he was put on the spot. Is that important? Was it important? No one expected Duan Lingtian's answer, and everyone fell silent. Most people even thought to themselves that Duan Lingtian did not break through to the peak of the refined saint stage since he had answered that way. Humph, how mysterious. A loud voice resonated in the air abruptly just as the scene turned silent from Duan Lingtian's reply. Following that, 2 tall figures emerged from the crowd and entered Duan Lingtian's line of sight. They were 2 identical young men dressed in white. The person who had spoken had a black mole between his brows. He's the younger twin, Luo He. At this moment, Guo Lu's voice transmission sounded in Duan Lingtian's ear promptly. He said to Duan Lingtian, the one with a red mole between his brows is the elder brother, Luo Shan. Luo Shan and Luo He. Duan Lingtian nodded while he glanced at both of them coldly. He could sense the hostility in both their eyes. If it was not because of Guo Lu's explanation, he would have been baffled why these two people would look at him with such hostility. However, he was no longer surprised since Guo Lu had told him everything. It's the Luo brothers. This Luo He is rude. Does he have enmity with Lingtian? I'm not sure. Judging by the look of things, I find it hard to believe there's no enmity between them. The spectators were surprised, but they were looking at the Luo brothers expectantly since they appeared in such a domineering and confrontational manner. Guo Lu stood shoulder to shoulder with Duan Lingtian as he looked at Luo He with a grim expression and asked, mysterious. Luo He, what do you mean? Isn't that the act he's going for? Luo He said mockingly, if he has broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage, why won't he just admit it? In my opinion, although he has immersed himself in the Heaven Palace's spirit pool, he certainly hasn't broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage. The peak of the refined saint stage is not so easy to enter after all. Guo Lu, you're living backward, aren't you? Luo Shan looked at Guo Lu and sneered. He's just a rookie who has just joined the mystical sky mansion, and yet, you're currying favor with him like a dog. Guo Lu did not expect Luo Shan to be so vicious with his words. His face instantly turned red in anger. What crap are you talking? Crap. The sneer on Luo Shan's face became even more apparent. If I'm talking crap, why are you standing by him and standing up for him? He's my friend, Guo Lu said in a deep voice. Friend? Hilarious. Luo Shan said dismissively, as far as I know, you've only met him once before today. Moreover, you even fought the first time you met. Today's the second time you're meeting each other, and you say he's your friend. Are you trying to tell me that, out of blows, friendship grows? So what about it? Guo Lu sneered. Just as Luo Shan opened his mouth to speak, a pa sound reverberated in the air. It was the sound of Duan Lingtian's hand landing on Guo Lu's shoulder. Senior brother Guo Lu, some people don't have friends. If you talk to him about friendship, it's as futile as a wolf howling at the moon. Howling at the moon. Once Duan Lingtian finished his sentence, everyone present on the scene began to give Luo Shan strange looks. In the Heaven Palace of Mystical Sky Mansion, the Luo brothers indeed did not have many friends due to their arrogance. Even if they had friends, they were all just fair-weather friends. Duan Lingtian's words landed where it would hurt the Luo brothers the most. Both their expressions instantly darkened. Howling at the moon, haha, that's accurate. Many people in the crowd laughed. Most of these people were not afraid of the Luo brothers. Some of these people were from the main mansion. They were powerhouses on the Mystical Sky Mansion's Mystical Sky ranking. They were disciples at the Eminent Saint stage. The corner of Guo Lu's lips could not help but twitch when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. At the same time, he nodded solemnly and played along. You're right, junior brother Lingtian, I've cared too much. Lingtian, everyone says you're strong and have a high innate talent. I didn't expect you to have such a glib tongue. You're widely acknowledged as the strongest person among the younger generation, do you dare to fight me? Luo He challenged Duan Lingtian as he took a step forward. He glared fiercely at him with a dark expression on his face. Wah! Although most people expected this to happen, it still caused a commotion when it finally happened. Luo He had challenged Lingtian. Everyone present, especially disciples from the Heaven Palace, was very familiar with Luo He. Luo He was a mastery refined saint stage martial cultivator. His strength was ranked second among the Heaven Palace's mastery refined saint stage disciples. He was second only to his twin brother, Luo Shan. As the Heaven Palace's disciples, Luo He's strength was widely acknowledged. Even among all of the mastery refined saint stage disciples in the Mystical Sky Mansion, Luo He could easily be ranked fifth. Unlike Luo He, Lingtian had only joined the Mystical Sky Mansion 3 months ago. Although that might be the case, Lingtian was more well-known compared to Luo He. In the Heaven Palace, perhaps, everyone knew Luo He and Lingtian. However, when it came to the entire Mystical Sky Mansion, Lingtian was more famous because he was widely acknowledged as the strongest person among the younger generation. There were even rumors that the Mansion Master of Mystical Sky Mansion was interested in taking Lingtian in as his direct disciple. However, Luo He had decided to challenge Duan Lingtian today. Isn't Luo He afraid that Lingtian has already broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage? Many people looked at each other as they whispered among themselves. Just like Luo he said, based on Ling Tian's reaction earlier, likely, he hasn't broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage, perhaps, that's why he dares to challenge Ling Tian. More and more people whispered among themselves. Chapter 1742, Certainly. If he's certain Ling Tian has broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage, would he have the courage to challenge him? If Ling Tian has broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage, both of them won't be a match for him unless they join forces. Yes, even if Ling Tian has broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage, it must have been recent. Such martial cultivators who have just broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage could be defeated by the Luo brothers if they join forces. The problem is, Ling Tian might not have broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage, so he's in a precarious situation now. 2 months ago, before Ling Tian entered the spirit pool, he already managed to come to a draw with Guolu during the duel. Now that he had immersed himself in the spirit pool, his cultivation base must have been strengthened even further even if he didn't make a breakthrough. If he fights Luo He, he's still a match for Luo He and even stands a chance of defeating him. The disciples from Mystical Sky Mansion were busy discussing this. All of them were eager to watch the upcoming battle. From the beginning until the end, it did not occur to them that Duan Ling Tian might not even want to fight. Luo He saw the lack of reaction from Duan Ling Tian after he challenged him and instantly said mockingly, "Ling Tian, it can't be that you're afraid of fighting me, right?" Faced with the provocation from Luo He and the watchful eyes of the others, Duan Ling Tian glanced coldly at Luo He and said leisurely, "Must I say yes? You can just make your move." He sounded extremely lighthearted as though he did not see Luo He as a worthy opponent. And that was the truth of it. He indeed did not see Luo He as a worthy opponent. What did he have to fear against a mastery refined saint stage martial cultivator? Ling Tian seems very confident. At this moment, most people saw how confident Duan Ling Tian was. This Ling Tian wouldn't have broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage, would he? Probably. Once he makes a move, we'll be able to see if he has broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage. A lot of people were looking forward to seeing if Duan Ling Tian's cultivation base was at the peak of the refined saint stage. If it was, then his confidence was, naturally, normal. Luo Shan frowned as his heart skipped a beat. Why is Duan Ling Tian so confident? Unless he has really broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage. It was not only Luo Shan, but even Luo He began to have his doubts. Duan Ling Tian's confidence made him somewhat uncertain about Duan Ling Tian's tactic. Was he intentionally being mysterious or was he really strong? However, based on the current situation, he had no other way out. After all, he was the one who issued the challenge. If he backed down now, he would definitely be the laughingstock of the entire Mystical Sky Mansion. He would never be able to lift his head up high in the Mystical Sky Mansion again. Ling Tian, I have to say that you're really arrogant. Luo He took a deep breath and looked at Duan Ling Tian with a darkened expression and said coldly, "I'll just have to see for myself where your confidence comes from." Once he finished speaking, he did not wait for Duan Ling Tian's reply. Luo He's true origin that had been brewing all this while rose from his body. In just an instant, within a 100-meter radius of Luo He, the air stirred as the ground began to quake. The spectators instinctively began to retreat, freeing up a vast amount of space. Wang Feizan, who had retreated in the distance, saw Luo He made his move as a mocking smile involuntarily appeared on her face. A mere mastery refined saint stage martial cultivator actually dares to challenge Ling Tian. This Luo He really doesn't know his own strength. She knew Ling Tian's strength the best. Even when she fought with all her might, she could not even leave a scratch on Ling Tian's defensive technique. Based on that, it was likely that Ling Tian was at the peak of the refined saint stage. Due to this reason, she felt this battle had no suspense at all. Water attribute true origin. When Luo He consolidated his territory with the true origin, Duan Ling Tian could clearly feel the aura of water, and it was getting denser by the minute. This territory seems to be formed by water as well, however, the water in the territory is very aggressive. It's not your average water. As the thought flashed in Duan Ling Tian's mind, he discovered that a barrage of water had suddenly appeared in Luo He's territory. Before he could react, the water had transformed into a huge water dragon that instantly charged at him. Boom, 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 the water dragon shot across the sky and made the air tremble as it charged toward Duan Ling Tian with its teeth and claws bared. Dragon, Duan Lingtian raised an eyebrow when he saw the water dragon that was transformed by Luo He's territory. In the next moment, the sun true origin in his body began to stir and flow through the 99 saint veins. In just a blink of an eye, it covered his body in a layer of golden light. In just a flash, Duan Lingtian's sun true origin surged out of his body and rose in the air like a blazing sun. It was extremely bright. Once the blazing sun appeared, it caught everyone's attention. What kind of true origin is that? Many people were dumbfounded. It was their first time seeing such an excessive true origin. This true origin. In the crowd, Lu Jian and Ren Fei who were next to each other frowned immediately before they looked at each other tacitly. Both of them communicated through voice transmission. This true origin seems to be fairly similar to Li Feng's true origin. According to my uncle, when Li Feng's true origin appeared, it was like the sun itself had appeared. Could it really be that Ling Tian really knows Li Feng? At this moment, no matter if it was Lu Jian or Ren Fei, both of them could not help but think of when Duan Lingtian mentioned he knew Li Feng on the first day they joined the Heaven Palace. However, most people thought Duan Lingtian was merely boasting. However, now that they had seen Duan Lingtian's true origin, they felt Duan Lingtian might have been telling the truth, and he was not boasting. It was possible he actually knew Li Feng and was related to him in some ways. The current Duan Lingtian, naturally, did not know his true origin had already caught the attention of Lu Jian and Ren Fei. Naturally, even if he knew, he would not care about it. He knew his true origin would be exposed sooner or later, so it did not matter either way. Besides, nobody would think he was Li Feng who had appeared in the Rising Sky Mansion's district. He was very confident in his disguising secret tactic. Roar! Under everyone's watchful eyes, the water dragon transformed from Luo He's territory let out an angry roar. A few moments later, it arrived near Duan Lingtian in just a blink of an eye. Wah! At the same time, they also saw that the blazing sun that hung above Duan Lingtian expanded suddenly before it exploded. It blinded the mass of people temporarily, and they could not help but squint their eyes. In just a blink of an eye, a golden divine dragon with blood energy all around it appeared on top of Duan Lingtian's head. Roar! The moment the golden dragon appeared, it also roared. Following that, its huge body charged toward the water dragon. In regards to size, the golden divine dragon was less than half the size of the water dragon. However, in regards to majesty, the golden divine dragon was far superior. True origin consolidated beast. After looking at the scene, many people could not help but feel shocked when they saw Duan Lingtian cast his true origin consolidated beast. This technique was one level lower compared to the true origin consolidated territory. Why would Duan Lingtian cast the true origin consolidated beast under such circumstances? Does he know that he would be put at a great disadvantage? Many people were staring at each other. They were all confused by Duan Lingtian's action. This guy actually did not cast his true origin consolidated territory and used his true origin consolidated beast instead. Luo He's not an intermediate refined saint stage martial cultivator who can be easily defeated by him. Maybe a mastery refined saint stage martial cultivator might not be a match for him, but the way he looks down on his opponent would bring about his misfortune. In the distance, Wang Feizan began to frown as well. She felt that Duan Lingtian was being too careless. You're seeking death. When Luo He saw this, he sneered as he continued to infuse his true origin continuously into his territory, the water dragon. In just an instant, the size of the water dragon grew again. When it flew, it was as though dark clouds had covered the sun. It covered the sunlight wherever it flew. Bang! Along with the sound of an explosion, the earth quaked as the air trembled. It was the sound of the golden divine dragon with blood energy surrounding it crashing into the water dragon. The former was a true origin consolidated beast cast by Duan Lingtian whereas the latter was the true origin consolidated territory cast by Luo He. The latter was a level higher than the former. Lingtian's too careless. Yes, even if he's really a martial cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage, his true energy consolidated beast would most probably be on par with Luo He's true energy consolidated territory. If he's not a martial cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage, he'll probably fall into a disadvantageous position and lose. I really don't know what he's thinking. Most of the spectators did not know what Duan Lingtian was thinking. We'll know immediately if Duan Lingtian has already broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage. To most people, they thought the aftermath of the collision between the two divine dragons would expose Duan Lingtian's cultivation base. As the airwaves and wind from the impact gradually calmed down, everyone could see that both the golden divine dragon and the water dragon was gone. Ling Tian and Luo He stood at their original positions, unharmed. Obviously, the two forces crashing into each other was evenly matched. Tisk, 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 comma. After looking at how things ended, the entire scene fell silent momentarily before sounds of gasping filled the air. Ling Tian has really broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage. There was only one possibility for things to end in such a way. Ling Tian had already broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage. Otherwise, it would be impossible for his true energy consolidated beast to be evenly matched with Luo He's true energy consolidated territory. Chapter 1743. Naturally, Duan Ling Tian and Luo He's battle did not come to a real draw. After all, Duan Ling Tian had only used the true origin consolidated beast, whereas Luo He had used his true origin consolidated territory. In fact, Duan Ling Tian was holding himself back. Otherwise, with his current strength, he could have easily defeated Luo He just by using his true origin consolidated beast. He did not do so because he did not want to expose his trump card so early. Since so many people thought he had broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage, then he would maintain his strength at the peak of the refined saint stage with all his might. An ordinary martial cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage would not be able to defeat a mastery refined saint stage martial cultivator by using the true energy consolidated beast technique. They would be evenly matched at most. The peak of the refined saint stage. Ling Tian has actually broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage. As it turned out, things were going according to Duan Ling Tian's wish. After his first fight with Luo He, everyone present on the scene thought he was a martial cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage. This guy, it's fine if he has made a breakthrough, but he doesn't want to admit it. Wang Feizan shook her head and looked at Duan Ling Tian shyly, although there was a tiny hint of resentment in her eyes. The peak of the refined saint stage. Luo He's expression changed dramatically. He did not expect Ling Tian had already broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage. A martial cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage was not someone he could fight alone, no matter how ordinary or weak the martial cultivator was. Luo Shan, who was observing at the side, had a slightly more dignified expression on his face. Ling Tian has actually made a breakthrough. Since Duan Ling Tian had shown the public his strength at the peak of the refined saint stage, he did not intend to stop after one failed strike. He moved and shot toward Luo He like a specter. Luo He, be careful. Luo Shan's expression changed, and he quickly reminded in a timely manner. Even without Luo Shan's reminder, Luo He had already sensed the impending danger heading his way and intended to dodge it immediately. However, as a mastery refined saint stage martial cultivator, how could he dodge a preemptive strike from a martial cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage? Duan Ling Tian was charging toward Luo He at the maximum speed a martial cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage would possess. Bang! As the sound of a loud explosion sounded, under everyone's watchful eyes, Duan Ling Tian appeared standing in Luo He's place. Luo He, on the other hand, had been sent flying before he fell to the ground. His appearance was disheveled. From the beginning until the end, the true origin in Luo He's body was suppressed by Duan Ling Tian's true origin. He could not mobilize it at all. Silence descended on the entire scene. Luo He was the one who provoked Ling Tian and issued a challenge to him. In the end, he was even sent flying with just a blow. If Ling Tian didn't fool around with Luo He by using the true origin consolidated beast in the beginning, I think Luo He would have been defeated in one move. Isn't it obvious? This Luo He is too overconfident. He brought this upon himself. Most of the disciples of Mystical Sky Mansion had hints of mockery in their eyes as they looked at the disheveled Luo He who finally stood up. They were not polite with their words at all. More and more people began to mock him until eventually, more than 90% of the people present on the scene were doing so. Perhaps, many of them were not a match for Luo He. However, so many people were mocking him, they were not afraid Luo He would retaliate. It was impossible for him to retaliate against everyone present after all. After Luo He stood up, his face turned purple before it turned pale. He could not say anything at all. At such a time, what else could he, as the loser, say? Ling Tian. At this moment, Luo Shan spoke up, successfully garnering everyone's attention. He looked at Duan Ling Tian and said in a low voice, "First, I have to congratulate you. After entering the spirit pool, you managed to break through to the peak of the refined saint stage, Since you've broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage, it's normal that my brother and I are not a match for you. However, before Luo Shan finished speaking, Duan Ling Tian interrupted him and said, however, if I'm willing to accept a challenge from both of you joining forces and defeat both of you, then both of you will submit to me. Is that it? Once Duan Ling Tian finished speaking, all the Heaven Palace's disciples threw Luo Shan a dirty look. If it was like Duan Ling Tian said, then Luo Shan was really shameless. In the mystical Sky Mansion's Heaven Palace, who did not know that when the Luo brothers joined forces, they were able to defeat quite a number of powerhouses at the peak of the refined saint stage. Luo Shan frowned. He did not expect Duan Ling Tian to know what he was going to say. However, he had no way out at this point, so he nodded and said, that's right. Naturally, if you don't dare to accept the challenge, you can refuse it. Even if you refuse it, no one would say anything since you're indeed stronger than any one of us. No one expected Luo Shan to be so frank. Although it was shameless, it was very honest and blunt. Luo He, who had recovered slightly after consuming a few healing medicinal pills, looked at Duan Ling Tian and asked in a deep voice, Ling Tian, do you dare to fight us brothers? Since Duan Ling Tian was already at the peak of the refined saint stage, he was not ashamed of losing. However, if there was a chance for him to defeat Duan Ling Tian and break his spirit, he definitely would not pass up the chance. He did not care that it was despicable that he had to join forces with his brothers to do so. Ignore them. When Luo He finished speaking, a familiar voice sounded in Duan Ling Tian's ears. It was Wang Feizan. These Luo brothers are strong individually. They're two of the strongest people among the Heaven Palace's mastery refined saint stage disciples. Once they join forces, someone who had just broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage is not a match for them. In the Heaven Palace, the number of disciples at the peak of the refined saint stage who's defeated by both of them are in double digits, Wang Feizan said solemnly. At this moment, another familiar voice was transmitted into Duan Ling Tian's ears. It was Guo Lu, junior brother Ling Tian. They're as shameless as I thought they would be, you can just ignore them. Once he finished speaking, Guo Lu looked at Luo Shan and said mockingly, Luo Shan, just say you want to win by numbers and cut the bullshit. Both of your ages would total up to more than 100, and yet, you're not ashamed to say you want to join forces with your brother to challenge a new disciple who's below the age of 40. Once Guo Lu finished speaking, even more people looked at the Luo brothers with a peculiar look. Guo Lu's right. The Luo brothers are shameless. In my opinion, they aren't willing to submit and wants to seek revenge by joining forces. Shameless. So shameless. People whose age that totals up to more than 100 could bear to join forces to challenge someone who's not even 40 years old yet. Many people spoke up and mocked them. The Luo brothers' faces turned pale before it turned purple. Naturally, when they looked at Guo Lu, there were hints of coldness in their eyes. If it was not because there were so many people here and the strict rules in the mystical Sky Mansion, they would have exploded and hit or kill Guo Lu. Luo Shan took a deep breath before he looked at Duan Ling Tian and said, Ling Tian, I said you can refuse the challenge. Ling Tian, if you don't dare to accept, then you're a coward and a bastard. Ling Tian, if you don't accept it, you're not a man. Simultaneously, two voices were transmitted into Duan Ling Tian's ears. They were the voice transmissions from the Luo brothers. It was obvious they were trying to anger and provoke him into accepting the challenge. Humph. After listening to their voice transmissions, Duan Ling Tian snorted as his expression darkened. His cold eyes landed on the Luo brothers. Even if you didn't provoke or anger me through voice transmissions, I wouldn't have refused the challenge. Since you want to join forces and challenge me, then go ahead. Go ahead. When Duan Ling Tian's words were heard by the people present, it struck them like a bolt of lightning during a sunny day. Most people did not expect Duan Ling Tian to accept the challenge. You're being too reckless, junior brother Ling Tian. At the same time, Wang Feizan and Guo Lu's voice transmissions entered Duan Ling Tian's ears. Both of them sounded anxious. They did not expect Duan Ling Tian would accept the Luo brothers' challenge even after they had advised him against it. Ling Tian, agreed to it. He's too reckless. Indeed, he's too reckless. Any one of the Luo brothers is almost invincible among the Heaven Palace's mastery refined saint stage disciples. With the synergy between twins, when they joined forces, the numbers of disciples at the peak of the refined saint stage they defeated are in the double digits. It's impossible for someone who has just broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage to defeat the Luo brothers when they join forces. I'm afraid Ling Tian doesn't know this. Otherwise, he wouldn't have accepted the challenge. I think Ling Tian knows. He's close to Guo Lu, and Guo Lu must have reminded him. I guess he accepted the challenge because the Luo brothers provoked him through voice transmission. Earlier, he did say the Luo brothers provoked him through voice transmission. The Luo brothers are too shameless. To get Ling Tian to accept the challenge, they stooped so low. They're an embarrassment to the Heaven Palace. Even so, Ling Tian's too reckless. It's obvious what the Luo brothers' intentions are by provoking him. He's still too young. The crowd began to discuss among themselves. Many people looked at the Luo brothers disdainfully, and many shook their heads as they looked at Duan Ling Tian. All of them felt Duan Ling Tian was being too reckless. Haha, good, good. After hearing that Duan Ling Tian had accepted their challenge, the Luo brothers laughed happily, especially Luo He. He was so happy, it was as though he could already see Duan Ling Tian lying on the ground after being defeated by him and his brother. Chapter 1744. He actually agreed to it. It seems like this guy is just another idiot who's obsessed with martial arts. Luo Shan sneered inwardly. Regardless, since Duan Ling Tian had accepted the Luo brothers' joint challenge, things were settled now. Although Wang Feizan and Guo Lu's expressions did not look too good, they did not say anything else to Duan Ling Tian through voice transmission. Since the situation had developed to this stage, it was too late for Duan Ling Tian to go back on his words anyway. Could it be that he's confident he can defeat the Luo brothers even if they join forces? Wang Feizan did not know why this thought appeared in her mind. However, she dismissed the thought as soon as it appeared since she felt it was impossible. In the mystical Sky Mansion's Heaven Palace, none of the disciples who've just broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage was a match for the Luo brothers when they joined forces. The Luo brothers' strength is widely acknowledged. Let it be. He should suffer a bit so he wouldn't be so rebellious next time, and he'll learn to listen to the words of others. Naturally, Wang Feizan was displeased Duan Ling Tian did not heed her advice. He should know it was for his own good. Duan Ling Tian stood opposite the Luo brothers as the surrounding fell silent. Although there were many people present, everyone remained quiet. It was so quiet that even the sound of a needle falling could be heard. What's happening over there? At this moment, a voice sounded from afar. It was the voice of a disciple from Heaven Palace who had just arrived. He had a confused expression on his face until he learned about what had transpired from the people around him. He immediately joined the spectators. This Ling Tian is too overconfident. Although he has broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage, it hasn't been too long since then. He's not a match for the Luo brothers if they join forces. While Duan Ling Tian and the Luo brothers stood opposite each other, more and more people arrived. Suddenly, the attention of one of the Heaven Palace's disciples landed on a young man who had just joined the crowd. He greeted him humbly, "Senior brother Wang Pai." This young man was none other than Wang Pai, the direct disciple of Master Xiaoyi, the Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace. He was also the person who led Duan Ling Tian to the spirit pool back then. "Junior brother Ling Tian, you're being reckless. I've heard about the Luo brothers. Ordinary powerhouses at the peak of the refined saint stage might not be their match, let alone the fact that you've just broken through not too long ago." Wang Pai sent Duan Ling Tian a voice transmission when he appeared. "Don't worry, senior brother Wang Pai. I won't do something I'm not certain about." Duan Ling Tian's response was filled with confidence. Wang Pai was stunned by Duan Ling Tian's confident reply. He stared at him before he responded through voice transmission. "If that's the case, I shall eagerly await your performance, junior brother Ling Tian. Naturally, even if you're not a match for them, you don't have to worry about them secretly sabotaging your chance of entering the Saint Martial secret zone. If there's a need, I'll make a move." "Thank you, senior brother Wang Pai." Although Duan Ling Tian did not think he would need Wang Pai's help, he still thanked him through voice transmission because of his good intention. Luo Shan, who stood next to Luo He, stared at Duan Ling Tian as he said in his deep voice, "Ling Tian, both of us won't bully you so you can make the first move." At this moment, the auras of the Luo brothers who stood together had fused together in a strange manner. The vibe it gave Duan Ling Tian was peculiar. It was as though he was facing one person, not two people. The Luo brothers joining forces is not as simple as it seems. Put everything else aside, just the ability to fuse their auras together like this is not something all twins are able to do. Duan Ling Tian raised an eyebrow in surprise. Naturally, he was not worried even if that was the case. With his current strength, even without using the Celestial Supreme Treasure, He was not even afraid of early eminent saint stage martial cultivators, let alone powerhouses at the refined saint stage. It was only natural the others did not know about this. After hearing Luo Shan's words, Wang Feizan was, naturally, annoyed. She said mockingly, "How funny. Even at this age, both brothers are teaming up to fight a single person. They are even shameless enough to say they're not bullying others. The Luo brothers' shamelessness has really broadened my horizon." Although she was not speaking loudly, everyone present on the scene heard her and agreed with her. It twisted the Luo brothers' expressions, but they could not refute her words. They could only glare at her. Wang Feizan was, naturally, not afraid of them. No matter what, she was still the great young Miss Wang of the tyrannic Saber Mansion. If it was possible, they did not want to offend Wang Feizan as well. "Are you sure you want me to make the first move?" Duan Lingtian asked as he glanced at the Luo brothers indifferently. "What, are you worried that my brother will cheat?" Luo he sneered. "Don't worry, I, Luo Shan, always keep my word. My words represent both of us." Luo Shan snorted. "If that's the case, I won't be polite then." Duan Lingtian nodded after hearing their words. His eyes turned cold as the sun true origin in his body stirred and surged out through the 99 saint veins. In just a blink of an eye, a territory appeared in within a 100-meter radius of Duan Lingtian. His territory was, naturally, the 10,000 swords territory. However, due to the sun true origin, his 10,000 swords territory seemed to have transformed into a huge blazing sun that not only hid him from the people's prying eyes, but it also shrouded the Luo brothers. The sight of the people outside was instantly blocked. Nobody could see anything at all. "What's that? Seems to be a territory. What territory is that? I can't see what's happening inside at all." Outside the territory, many mystical Sky Mansion's disciples were in a frenzy. How could they not be when their sight was blocked during a crucial moment? They were anxious, but they also felt helpless. "This is his territory." Wang Feizan looked surprised. "What territory is this?" Although this was not the first nor second day of her meeting Duan Lingtian, it was her first time seeing his territory. This is, at the same time, Lu Jian and Ren Fei who were in the crowd looked at each other yet again and saw the shock and incredulity in each other's eyes. "This territory, why is it so similar to what my uncle described as Li Feng's territory? I heard about it as well. After Li Feng formed his territory, it was like a huge blazing sun had appeared. Lingtian's territory is actually so similar to Li Feng. Indeed, it seems like they have a close relationship." Both of them sent voice transmissions to each other, and they could hear the shock in each other's tones. Meanwhile, inside the 10,000 swords territory, away from prying eyes, both the expressions on the Luo brothers' faces had changed. They had discovered that the true origin in their bodies seemed to have been suppressed. "How's this possible?" "Impossible. Even if he's at the peak of the refined saint stage, the territory consolidated by his true origin shouldn't be able to suppress the true origins in our bodies. Only powerhouses at the eminent saint stage are able to suppress our true origins through the true origin consolidated territory." The Luo brothers began to panic. They did not know what went wrong. From the beginning to the end, it did not even cross their minds that Duan Lingtian might be an eminent saint stage powerhouse. Duan Lingtian was merely a youngster who had not even reached the age of 40. How could they relate such a youngster to an eminent saint stage powerhouse? Naturally, Duan Lingtian was not an eminent saint stage powerhouse. The reason the territory consolidated from his true origin could suppress the Luo brothers' true origins was due to his sun true origin. In terms of strength, the sun true origin in his body was currently comparable to an ordinary early eminent saint stage powerhouse's true origin. That was why the Luo brothers' true origins were suppressed. It must be an extra ability of his territory. Right, it must be his territory's ability that suppresses the true origins in our bodies. Luo Shan muttered to himself, and Luo he who heard it nodded in agreement. Although their voices were not loud, Duan Lingtian still heard it. It rendered Duan Lingtian speechless. He did not think they had such a good imagination. This should end now. Duan Lingtian's eyes turned cold. Following that, the 10,000 solidified golden sword rays in the 10,000 swords territory rapidly shot toward the Luo brothers. The air trembled as tens of thousands of swords flew. Just by looking at it caused one to feel pressured. Imagine being the focus of its attack. Wah! The swords were flying in from all directions. As they got nearer and nearer, Luo he was the first to crumble. His expression changed drastically due to the pressure, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Soon after, Luo Shan also followed in his footsteps. What territory is this? At this moment, both of them were trying their best to mobilize the true origins in their bodies. They could only stare at one another as they saw the panic and despair in each other's eyes. The pressure that the tens of thousands of sword rays brought forth was akin to tens of thousands of mountains falling on them. So useless. Duan Lingtian smiled disdainfully when he saw how wretched they looked. He completely lost interest in playing with them. With just a thought, tens of thousands of swords rapidly condensed into a gigantic golden sword that swept across the sky. Crash! The body of the sword landed on them. Chapter 1745. The 10,000 Swords territory was consolidated from Duan Lingtian's Sun True Origin. In terms of force, his Sun True Origin was currently comparable to the true origin of an early eminent saint stage martial cultivator. Naturally, the force produced from the strike of the gigantic sword formed from 10,000 sword rays that were formed in the 10,000 Swords territory was not ordinary. Bang! As the sound of a loud explosion sounded from the force of the gigantic sword landing on the Luo brothers, they were both sent flying. Due to their sights being blocked by the 10,000 Swords territory, the people outside could not see what was happening inside at all. However, just because they could not see what was happening inside, it did not mean they could not hear what was going on inside. Earlier, they heard the sound of sword whistling in the air. It was as loud as wind and thunder. They tensed up even more when they heard the sound of an explosion. In the next instant, they saw two figures shot out from the golden territory. After flying around 100 meters away, they fell and crashed on the ground. They were completely still. Those are the Luo brothers. Very quickly, someone recognized the two unconscious figures. He could not help but gulp immediately. They were sent flying out by Ling Tian. To think they even passed out, they are the Luo brothers for God's sake. When the Luo brothers join forces, it's not possible for martial cultivators who have just broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage to defeat them. Who can tell me what's going on? Ling Tian is just too strong, isn't he? He knocked the Luo brothers out so quickly even when they joined forces. It's too bad Ling Tian's territory is too blinding. Otherwise, we would have been able to see how he defeated and knocked the Luo brothers out. The mystical Sky Mansion's disciples discussed among themselves after they gasped. Many of them were looking at the unconscious Luo brothers while the remaining disciples were looking at the golden ball-like territory that was gradually fading away. They were eager to see the person inside. They wanted to know if the person inside was injured since both the Luo brothers were passed out. Freak! When the Luo brothers were sent flying out, Wang Feizan was stunned. Although she did think that fellow might have a chance of winning, it did not cross her mind that he would win in such a direct and ridiculous manner. The moment the territory appeared, it enveloped the Luo brothers. After a while, the sound of sword whistling in the air and an explosion sounded before the Luo brothers were sent flying out. Moreover, they were passed out like two dead dogs. Although Wang Feizan thought Duan Lingtian might win due to the confidence he had shown, it was only a fleeting thought. Subconsciously, she did not think Duan Lingtian would be able to defeat the Luo brothers. She did not think things would turn out this way. Not only was this more than enough to prove that Duan Lingtian had broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage, but his prowess had also far surpassed ordinary powerhouses at the peak of the refined saint stage. After all, defeating the Luo brothers when they joined forces was not something ordinary powerhouses at the peak of the refined saint stage could do. Under the watchful eyes of the others, Duan Lingtian retracted his territory and revealed himself. Gasp, 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 comma. Although many of them knew Duan Lingtian was inside the territory, they still could not help but gasp when he showed himself. Powerful. He's really powerful. What kind of monster is Lingtian? He has just broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage over 2 months ago, but he's already so strong. He even easily defeated the Luo brothers when they joined forces. The Luo brothers probably thought that since Lingtian has only recently broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage, he would be easily bullied. I guess it didn't cross their minds, not even in their wildest dreams, that his strength is comparable to those elite powerhouses at the peak of the refined saint stage even though he had just recently made a breakthrough. No wonder Lingtian accepted their joint challenge. As it turns out, he wasn't acting recklessly, but he was truly confident. Humph, the Luo brothers have really dropped a stone on their own feet this time. The group of mystical Sky Mansion's disciples discussed among themselves. In their discussion, they praised Duan Lingtian's strength and mocked the Luo brothers for overestimating themselves. I knew it. Junior brother Ling Tian doesn't seem like someone who acts recklessly. However, it didn't cross my mind that his strength is able to defeat the Luo brothers' joint challenge. Guo Lu sighed emotionally as he stood in the distance, watching Duan Ling Tian. When he met Duan Ling Tian for the first time, he came to a draw with Duan Ling Tian. He knew Duan Ling Tian was holding back his strength. At that time, he had already suspected that Duan Ling Tian was a martial cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage. How Duan Ling Tian had deliberately held back and controlled his strength to come to a draw with him was not someone at the mastery refined saint stage could do. Only a martial cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage and above could do that easily. It must be the cleansing from the spirit pool that elevated junior brother Ling Tian's strength, Guo Lu speculated to himself. In the distance, Lu Jian and Ren Fei exchanged glances with each other again. They could see the shock in each other's eyes. They even exclaimed in unison, "How powerful!" Ling Tian's strength is most likely not inferior to Li Feng, who had previously appeared in the Rising Sky Mansion's district, Ren Fei commented with a glum expression. That's right, Li Feng's only at the peak of the refined saint stage, just like Ling Tian. If the two of them really battle it out, there's no saying who would win. Lu Jian nodded his head, agreeing with Ren Fei's words. Ling Tian's technique is very similar to Li Feng, looks like he really knows Li Feng. Do you think the favors he wants to repay our seniors have anything to do with Li Feng? Lu Jian muttered as he looked at Ren Fei. This thought just popped up in his mind. Now that you mentioned it, it's possible. That time, Li Feng stood our seniors up. Since our seniors had taken care of him so well during the Rising Sky ranking battle, perhaps, he feels guilty and owes our seniors a favor. Ling Tian must have quite a close relationship with Li Feng. It's possible that he has heard of this matter from Li Feng and plans to help him repay his debt. Ren Fei nodded his head in agreement. Lu Jian also felt this was a very likely reason after listening to Ren Fei. From the beginning until the end, they did not suspect that Ling Tian and Li Feng were the same people. This was because they were absolutely certain he was not disguising himself. During the Rising Sky Mansion battle, their seniors were also certain that Li Feng was not in disguise. Moreover, although they had not seen Li Feng in person, they had seen his portrait. Ling Tian and Li Feng looked completely different. Ling Tian looked dashing, unlike Li Feng, who had an ordinary appearance. Do you think it's possible for Ling Tian and Li Feng to be disciples of the same master? Ren Fei looked at Lu Jian and speculated through voice transmission. It's possible. Lu Jian was unsure, but he felt there was a possibility as well. When Ren Fei and Lu Jian was guessing the relationship between Ling Tian and Li Feng, Wang Feizan was also comparing Ling Tian to Li Feng. With the current strength he displays, he's most likely not inferior to Li Feng. I can't believe the elevation of his strength would be this huge after he entered the mystical sky mansion. At the same time, the look in her eyes as she looked at Duan Ling Tian had subtly changed as well. Naturally, Duan Ling Tian was unaware of it. At this moment, he was standing next to Wang Pai, who was exclaiming in shock over his earlier performance. Junior brother Ling Tian, I can't believe the trip to the spirit pool has elevated your cultivation base so much. Those Luo brothers are well known in our heaven palace. None of the disciples who have just broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage is a match for them at all. Yet, you've broken their winning streak. When Wang Pai reached the end of his sentence, he was deep in his thoughts. There was a sense of admiration in his gaze as he stared at Duan Ling Tian. At the very least, he was far from possessing such terrifying strength when he was Duan Ling Tian's age. With Duan Ling Tian's innate talent, it would just be a matter of time before he surpassed Wang Pai if he did not die. Wang Pai had no doubts about this. What happened? Isn't that Luo Shan and Luo He? Why are they lying on the ground like that? It seems like they're injured. Soon after, even more disciples from the Heaven Palace and the three palaces arrived at the summit to watch the show. As soon as they arrived, they realized the atmosphere was not right. Many disciples from the Heaven Palace also saw the Luo brothers lying on the ground. They recognized them immediately. The Luo brothers could be considered as quite famous in the Heaven Palace. After all, they were two mastery refined saint stage disciples who could defeat a powerhouse at the peak of the refined saint stage if they joined forces. Although there were many disciples from the three other palaces that had heard of the Luo brothers, there were also some who had never heard of them. However, after the Heaven Palace's disciples filled them in, they finally knew who the two men lying on the ground were. Two mastery refined saint stage disciples can actually defeat an ordinary disciple at the peak of the refined saint stage when they join forces. Are they really that strong? The three palaces disciples who first heard of the Luo brothers were shocked by this. What happened to them though? Isn't today the competition to earn a spot to enter the Saint Martial secret zone for the Heaven Palace? Why are the Luo brothers lying injured on the ground? As far as I know, they're over 50 years old and are not allowed to enter the Saint Martial secret zone. Why don't we ask those who are here before and find out what happened? The group of Mystical Sky Mansion's disciples who had just arrived asked around, and many Mystical Sky Mansion's disciples who were here earlier earnestly explained to them what happened and emphasized on how Ling Tian had easily defeated the Luo brother. What? Ling Tian injured them and knocked them out? My goodness, Ling Tian has really broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage. That's not the point. The point is Ling Tian has just broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage not long ago, and he's already capable of defeating the Luo brothers even when they joined forces. This means Ling Tian's strength has far exceeded an ordinary powerhouse at the peak of the refined saint stage. Chapter 1746. Far exceeds an ordinary powerhouse who's at the peak of the refined saint stage. That's right. Don't forget who the Luo brothers are. The numbers of people they had defeated at the peak of the refined saint stage numbers in 2 digits in the Heaven Palace when they joined forces. The disciples who had just broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage in less than a year are useless in front of them. They were all easily defeated. Exactly. Ling Tian must have made a breakthrough during the spirit pool cleansing. In other words, he has only broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage less than 3 months ago, but he still defeated the Luo brothers in such a forceful manner when they joined forces. I can't believe that other than having a high innate talent, Ling Tian's technique is this powerful as well. Box novel. Indeed, without the technique, it would have been impossible for him to even come to a draw with the Luo brothers if he has only broken through 3 months ago, let alone defeating them. When the Mystical Sky Mansion's disciples saw the results of the clash between the Luo brothers and Duan Ling Tian, they looked at Duan Ling Tian with hints of respect in their eyes. In this world where the strong ruled, it was only natural for people to respect powerful people. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian had gained the respect of the group of Mystical Sky Mansion's disciples. Do you see this? Your innate talent and strength have been acknowledged by them. After this battle, I'm sure the Lord Mansion Master will come and look for you soon, Wang Pai said with a smile as when he saw the respectful looks trained Duan Ling Tian. Lord Mansion Master will come and look for me. Duan Ling Tian was shocked. Why would he look for me? Why else? Naturally, it's because of your innate talent and wants to accept you as his direct disciple. In fact, you'll probably be his last disciple. When Wang Pai reached the end of his sentence, there were hints of envy in his eyes as he looked at Duan Ling Tian. In the Mystical Sky Mansion, the Mansion Master was the most supreme being, and at the same time, the strongest person in the Mystical Sky Mansion. If one were to become his disciple, one's future would be bright and limitless. Direct disciple, last disciple, perhaps an ordinary person would be delighted when they heard Wang Pai's words, however, his words only served to vex Duan Ling Tian. In the past, when he was on Cloud Continent, he had never taken anyone as his master before since he had the lifetime memory of the rebirth Martial Emperor. He did not think anyone was qualified to become his master. When he arrived at the Dao Martial Saint Land, since he met by Li Hong, he had gained a teacher, not a master. In the end, after obtaining the Supreme Sword Dao Mental Cultivation Method, Sovereign Heart Sword, Legacy, he had regarded Feng Qingyang as his master in his heart. He was the only master he recognized. Due to this reason, even if the Mansion Master of Mystical Sky Mansion wanted to take him as a direct disciple, or even to be his last disciple, he was not interested at all. In his heart, he only had one master. The master in his heart was the Sword Saint Feng Qingyang whom he had never met before. After obtaining the Sovereign Heart Sword Legacy, he had regarded Feng Qingyang as his master. Moreover, he had also regarded himself as the only successor of the Fog Rain progeny. Box novel. The attention of the disciples who were qualified to compete for a spot in entering the Saint Martial secret zone was undoubtedly on Duan Ling Tian. All over the place, in groups of 3s or 4s, the Mystical Sky Mansion's disciples looked at Duan Ling Tian from time to time as they discussed him. Ling Tian. At the same time, Lu Jian and Ren Fei who were originally standing in the distance walked toward Duan Ling Tian with a warm smile on their faces. After they had taken the initiative to greet him, they expressed their gratitude. Thank you for giving us a chance to ally with you. Before Duan Ling Tian could reply to them, Wang Feizan who was standing next to him snorted as she chimed in, don't be so eager as to thank him first. Who knows if both of you will be able to earn a spot to enter the Saint Martial's secret zone. If you fail to earn a spot, there'll be no need for you to mention anything about allying yourselves with him. You're right, Miss Faison, Lu Jian nodded before saying solemnly, I'll do everything in my power to earn a spot in the competition today. Even so, I'll still owe you a favor, Ling Tian. One had to say Lu Jian's words were neither arrogant nor humble. Even Duan Ling Tian could not help but admire him. Me too, Ren Fei chimed in at this moment. Humph. Among the four of us, you're the one with the least chance of earning a spot to enter the Saint Martial's secret zone. Wang Feizan said after she snorted as she looked at him coldly. Upon hearing her words, Ren Fei felt a little awkward, but he remained quiet. He had once experienced how powerful this young miss was. However, it did not cross his mind this young miss was still holding a grudge over how disrespectful he was after so long. Ren Fei knew that remaining silent at this moment was the right decision. You have a grudge with him? Duan Ling Tian asked curiously through voice transmission when he noticed how tensed Wang Feizan was. There's no grudge, I just don't like this guy, Wang Feizan replied coolly through voice transmission. Duan Ling Tian was rendered speechless when he heard her words. Luo Shan has regained consciousness, someone exclaimed at this moment in a loud voice. Everyone, including Duan Ling Tian, shifted their attention to Luo Shan who was lying on the ground. After regaining consciousness, Luo Shan consumed the healing medicinal pill as he struggled to sit up. Then, he shook Luo He to wake him up. The two brothers sat cross-legged to digest the healing medicinal pill. As time went by, colors returned to their pale faces, but they still appeared very weak. They managed to stand up with many difficulties by supporting each other. When they sensed the mocking gazes around them, they were too ashamed to lift up their heads. At this moment, only regrets were left in their hearts. How good would it be if they did not try and look for trouble with this fellow on their own accord? At the very least, they would not have fallen to such a place. The Luo brothers turned to leave the summit after they glanced at Duan Ling Tian fearfully. Tisk tisk, both of you are going to leave now. At this moment, Wang Feizan who was standing next to Duan Ling Tian flew out and blocked the Luo brothers' path with a mocking smile on her face. Luo Shan's expression turned grave, but he did not do anything. Instead, he asked in his deep voice, is there anything you want to say, Miss Feizan? With Wang Feizan's background, she was not someone he could afford to offend. Even if he did not take her background into consideration, with his weakened state, he was not a match for her at all. Due to this reason, he did not dare to act recklessly at all even though he was furious. Both of you are so dumb, there's nothing I have to say to you at all. I'm just curious whether you know both of you look like abandoned dogs now. Wang Feizan replied nonchalantly. The moment her words left her mouth, Luo Shan's expression turned grave while Luo He's body trembled from being so infuriated. He pointed a finger at Wang Feizan as he said, why you? Perhaps, he was too furious, but he could not finish his sentence at all. Do you believe I'll break your dog paw now if you don't retract it immediately? Wang Feizan snarled as a vicious light gleamed in her eyes. Before Luo He realized what was going on, Luo Shan had already made his move at lightning speed. At the same time, he bowed at Wang Feizan. Miss Feizan, my younger brother doesn't know any better. As his elder brother, I'll apologize on his behalf. Please forgive us. As the saying went, it's difficult to slap someone who's smiling. Luo Shan had already given in so much so Wang Feizan's anger had also mostly disappeared. Due to this reason, she did not intend on making fun of them any longer. When the Luo brothers disappeared from everyone's sights, Wang Feizan returned to stand next to Duan Ling Tian. You're really unforgiving. When she returned, Duan Ling Tian shook his head with a smile on his face. Wasn't I just trying to seek revenge for you? Wang Feizan replied, previously, they kept provoking you. When one of them couldn't defeat you, they issued a joint challenge. The outcome was a great one though. Both of them were knocked out by you in just a blink of an eye. When she reached the end of her sentence, her eyes gleamed brilliantly. Come on, can you just tell me your secrets? What's the current level of your strength? The moment her words left her mouth, Wang Pai, Guo Lu, Lu Jian, and Ren Fei immediately shifted their attention to Duan Ling Tian. They were curious about this matter as well. If I tell you that I'm invincible against all those below the eminent saint stage, will you believe me? Duan Ling Tian asked with a smile. Of course not. Wang Feizan rolled her eyes at Duan Ling Tian. Do you really think that nobody at the peak of the refined saint stage is your match since you've defeated the Luo brothers? Let me tell you, the Luo brothers are completely not a match to a real powerhouse at the peak of the refined saint stage, okay? Moreover, you might even be defeated in a wretched manner like the Luo brothers if you fight with them. When Duan Lingtian saw Wang Feizan thought he was merely bluffing, he only shook his head and smiled without further explaining himself. This filled Wang Feizan with arrogance since she thought she had struck at Duan Lingtian's weak spot since he did not refute her words. As for Wang Pai and the others, they, naturally, did not believe Duan Lingtian like Wang Feizan. Invincible against all those under the eminent saint stage. These 9 words sounded simple, but it was not as simple as it sounded in real life. As time passed by, Xiao Yi, the Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace, finally showed himself. He was the moderator for the competition to earn a spot to enter the Saint Martial's secret zone today. When he arrived, Wang Pai bade farewell to Duan Lingtian and the others before he went to stand next to Xiao Yi. He also recounted what had transpired to Xiao Yi and emphasized on the powerful strength Duan Lingtian had shown. What? When Xiao Yi heard this, he was baffled. He defeated the Luo brothers in just a span of a few breaths even though they joined forces. As the Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace, Xiao Yi, naturally, knew about some people in the Heaven Palace, and this included the Luo brothers. He remembered the Luo brothers because they had defeated many of Heaven Palace's disciples at the peak of the refined saint stage when they joined forces. Chapter 1747. When 2 martial cultivators at the peak of the mastery refined saint stage joined forces to defeat a person at the peak of the refined saint stage, even if the latter was not an elite among powerhouses at the peak of the refined saint stage, it was still something very astonishing and worth paying attention to since the latter managed to win. The Palace Master of Heaven Palace rarely concerned himself with the matters in the Heaven Palace. Usually, Xiao Yi, the Vice Palace Master, was the one in charge of Heaven Palace. Due to this reason, it was only natural he knew about the Luo brothers. Due to the fact that he knew the Luo brothers' strength when they joined forces, he was extremely shocked when he found out Duan Lingtian was able to defeat them in just a span of a few breaths. This fellow's already so strong after coming out from the spirit pool 3 months ago. Xiao Yi looked at Duan Lingtian who was standing in the distance with astonishment in his eyes. Although he knew Duan Lingtian's innate talent and abilities were powerful, he did not expect him to be able to defeat the Luo brothers' joint challenge even if he had suspected Duan Lingtian to have broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage after coming out of the spirit pool. As far as he was concerned, someone who could defeat the Luo brothers when they joined forces could be considered as an elite among the powerhouses at the peak of the refined saint stage. Vice Palace Master, Xiao Yi was the one who gave Duan Lingtian the opportunity to enter the spirit pool previously. Due to this reason, when he saw Xiao Yi had shown up, he instantly went to him and greeted him with a smile. Lingtian, I didn't expect you to become so powerful. With your current strength, I'm afraid you're already on par with Li Feng who had appeared in the Rising Sky Mansions district previously. Xiao Yi sighed emotionally. Although he had known Duan Lingtian's future would be boundless when he entered the Heaven Palace, it did not cross his mind that Duan Lingtian's strength would be elevated so greatly in such a short period of time. It's all thanks to Vice Palace Master who gave me the opportunity to cultivate in the spirit pool. Otherwise, I might have been defeated by the Luo brothers today, Duan Lingtian said courteously with gratitude. Although he definitely would be able to defeat the Luo brothers even without the cleansing from the spirit pool, it was due to the spirit pool that he was able to break through from the early refined saint stage to the peak of the refined saint stage. Due to this reason, he was very grateful to Xiao Yi. When Xiao Yi saw how Duan Lingtian did not forget he was the one who had given him the opportunity to enter the spirit pool, a smile appeared on his face immediately. With your innate talent, it's only natural for me to give you the opportunity to enter the spirit pool when you chose to join the Heaven Palace. However, there are many people who had entered the spirit pool before you, none of their strength was elevated as greatly as yours. When Duan Lingtian heard Xiao Yi's words, his expression appeared calm on the surface, but he was chuckling to himself inwardly. Actually, the benefits the spirit pool had granted him was the breakthrough from the early refined saint stage to the peak of the refined saint stage. As for the reason he had easily defeated the Luo brothers, it was all thanks to his own Sun True Origin. The Sun True Origin he currently possessed was comparable to the true origin of an early eminent saint stage powerhouse. When he defeated the Luo brothers, he had already held back by only using the blades. Although he had held back, the strength of an early eminent saint stage powerhouse was not something the Luo brothers were able to withstand. Alright, let's talk about this later. The reason I came over today is to preside over the competition to earn a spot to enter the Saint Martial Secret Zone. After Xiao Yi smiled at Duan Lingtian, he announced loudly to the saint stage disciples below the age of 40 to gather in the middle of the vast platform on the summit. As for those who came to watch, they were asked to retreat into the distance. So many people. Soon after, Duan Lingtian noticed there were 40 people remaining apart from Xiao Yi. In fact, there were only 10 people who entered Heaven Palace together with him. In other words, the Heaven Palace already had over 30 disciples at the saint stage below the age of 40. Suddenly, a voice resonated by Duan Lingtian's ears. "You're Lingtian." Then, Duan Lingtian saw a young man with an ordinary appearance walking toward him with a smile on his face. Let's familiarize ourselves with each other. I'm Gao Peng. Gao Peng. This name was not unfamiliar to Duan Lingtian. When he had just arrived at the Heaven Palace, he had already heard of this person. He was one of the 2 intermediate refined saint stage disciples below the age of 40 in the Heaven Palace. Before Duan Lingtian appeared, Gao Peng and another disciple at the intermediate refined saint stage below the age of 40 were known as the 2 strongest people among the younger generation in the Heaven Palace. However, due to his appearance, the glory of these 2 people was shifted to Duan Lingtian. If the most powerful person was mentioned among the younger generation in the Heaven Palace, every mystical Sky Mansion's disciple would definitely think of Duan Lingtian and not Gao Peng or the other person. Lingtian. Naturally, although Duan Lingtian had heard of Gao Peng before, this did not mean he knew much about him. However, since Gao Peng had taken the initiative to greet him, it would not have been polite for him to ignore him. Due to reason, he smiled in response. Lingtian, before you appeared, there's no one I admire among the younger generation in the mystical Sky Mansion. I have to say I really admire your innate talent and strength from the bottom of my heart. Moreover, I'm far too lacking to even catch up to you, Gao Peng said emotionally as he looked at Duan Lingtian. You flatter me. Duan Lingtian smiled humbly. Humph. At this moment, a snort resonated in the distance, accompanied by the sound of footsteps. Duan Lingtian turned around to look at the source of the sound. With just a glance, he saw a young man dressed in a fine robe making his way over from afar. There were 2 Heaven Palace's disciples following behind him. It was obvious they were his lackeys. Like stars twinkling around the bright moon, they attended to him as he made his way over. The young man was quite handsome. His hawk nose was particularly striking, making him look dashing. It was obvious he was the one who had snorted earlier. Soon after, the finely dressed young man appeared in front of Duan Lingtian. He looked at him from top to bottom, and there was a hint of dread in his eyes. However, he looked at Duan Lingtian arrogantly as though Duan Lingtian was one of his subordinates. Intermediate refined saint stage. After activating his divine eye, Duan Lingtian could easily see the cultivation base of this person. Among all those who were standing here, apart from Wang Feizan and Gao Peng, there was only one person at the intermediate refined saint stage. Zhao Ji. In the Heaven Palace, Zhao Ji shared the same fame with Gao Peng. He was the other intermediate refined saint stage martial cultivator who had not even reached the age of 40. However, unlike Gao Peng's ordinary background, Zhao Ji was born with a golden spoon in his mouth. His father was one of the vice mansion masters of Mystical Sky Mansion while his grandfather was one of the 2 great guardians of the Mystical Sky Mansion. The 2 great guardians of the Mystical Sky Mansion were only inferior to the mansion master in the Mystical Sky Mansion. Zhao Ji looked at Duan Lingtian domineeringly and snorted as he asked in an almost interrogative tone, "You're Lingtian?" Faced with Zhao Ji, there was a hint of dread in Wang Feizan's eyes. Although her background could be considered powerful, she was still far from being comparable to Zhao Ji. Put everything else aside, just Zhao Ji's grandfather alone could annihilate the tyrannic Saber Mansion. If he was inclined to do so, he definitely had the might to do so if he had the patience. Duan Lingtian could not be bothered with Zhao Ji's question. Duan Lingtian only glanced at him once, and he no longer looked at him again. As Zhao Ji's expression turned grave, one of the Heaven Palace's disciples standing behind him said loudly, "How dare you? Lingtian, did you not hear great young master Zhao Ji talking to you? Since when does a dog dare to shout and bark in front of its owner?" Duan Lingtian looked at the Heaven Palace's disciple mockingly, causing the disciple's expression to turn glum as blue veins popped up on his forehead. However, there was nothing he could do since he was not a match for Duan Lingtian at all. Lingtian, you must be crazy. Zhao Ji looked at Duan Lingtian coldly as he said in a threatening tone, do you think you can treat others with contempt just because you have high innate talent and powerful abilities? You're only at the peak of the refined saint stage. Where do you think you stand in the entire mystical sky mansion? What use will your high innate talent be if you die before you can grow any stronger? When Zhao Ji reached the end of his sentence, a terrifying killing intent could be seen in his eyes. The peak of the refined saint stage is indeed nothing, however, at the very least, it's more powerful than your intermediate refined saint stage, right? Duan Lingtian scoffed indifferently in front of Zhao Ji. The mocking smile on his face became even more apparent, causing Zhao Ji's expression to turn grim immediately. He, Zhao Ji, had always behaved willfully and without a care in the mystical sky mansion. Prior to this, was there anyone who dared to talk to him in this manner? Excellent, excellent. Zhao Ji's eyes sparkled with killing intent as he stared at Duan Lingtian. You're the first one in mystical sky mansion who dares to speak to me in this manner. Lingtian, I, Zhao Ji, will remember you. Duan Lingtian shrugged indifferently. It was obvious he was not worried about Zhao Ji's threat. This caused Zhao Ji's expression to turn even grimmer. Lingtian, you're too reckless. At this moment, a voice transmission resonated in Duan Lingtian's ears. It was Gao Peng's voice transmission. Zhao Ji has an extraordinary background. Many powerhouses in the mystical sky ranking even have to curry favor with him. Moreover, his father is one of the vice mansion masters with a few eminent saint stage disciples. As for his grandfather, he's one of the 2 guardians in the mystical sky mansion. Most of his grandfather's disciples are elders in the mystical sky mansion. When Gao Peng reached the end of his sentence, his tone was filled with dread. Although he was not inferior to Zhao Ji in regards to strength, due to Zhao Ji's background, he had no choice but to lower his head in front of him. He did not dare to offend Zhao Ji at all. Thank you for your reminder, but I've already known about all these, Duan Lingtian replied through voice transmission. You already knew. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Gao Peng was shocked. He had thought Duan Lingtian treated Zhao Ji carelessly because he was unaware of Zhao Ji's background. He did not expect Duan Lingtian to have already known about Zhao Ji's background prior to this. He already knows about Zhao Ji's background, but he still dares to treat Zhao Ji in this manner. What kind of backing does he have? Don't tell me it's just based on his monstrous ability alone. Gao Peng thought to himself as he shook his head. He acknowledged that Duan Lingtian had a very high innate talent, but this did not mean he could fight with Zhao Ji. Chapter 1748. In the mystical sky mansion, the mansion master did not marry and had only taken one direct disciple. However, the disciple had died. Ever since then, the mansion master of the mystical sky mansion no longer accepted anyone as his disciple. Due to this reason, Zhao Ji could be considered as having the highest position among the 2nd generation of the mystical sky mansion. This was because his grandfather was one of the 2 great guardians in the mystical sky mansion while his father was one of the few vice mansion masters in the mystical sky mansion. Other than the juniors directly below the mansion master's command, who else had a lofty position in the mystical sky mansion like him? Soon after, Gao Peng discovered that faced with the dispute between Duan Lingtian and Zhao Ji, not only Wang Pai but even Xiao Yi, the vice palace master of Heaven Palace, had a calm expression on their faces. It was as though they were not worried about Duan Lingtian at all. This caused him to feel baffled. As far as he knew, Wang Pai had quite a good relationship with Lingtian. However, why were they not worried about Lingtian? Could it be they think nothing would happen to Lingtian even if he has a dispute with Zhao Ji? Gao Peng's heart jolted when he thought of this. Don't tell me. Soon after, a shocking reason appeared in his mind. If there were to be any disciple who did not need to fear Zhao Ji in the mystical sky mansion, it would be those with the mansion master's backing. Don't tell me the mansion master has taken a liking to Lingtian. Gao Peng's heartbeat increased when he thought about this. Their mansion master was the most powerful person in the mystical sky mansion. His words carried a heavy weight, and he was the loftiest person in the mystical sky mansion. However, he had stopped accepting disciples due to his former disciple's death. Some said he was afraid of the death of his 2nd disciple. Some said he was only waiting for a young man whose innate talent was a match for his former disciple. As far as he knew, the former disciple of the mansion master of mystical sky mansion was only over the age of 20, but his cultivation base had already reached the pristine saint stage. If he was given another 10 years, it might not be certain he would break through to the peak of the refined saint stage, but it was definitely not a problem for him to break through to the mastery refined saint stage. Ling Tian's innate talent should be higher than Lord Mansion Master's former disciple. From Lord Vice Palace Master and Senior Brother Wang Pai's calmness, I guess they must know something. They probably know Lord Mansion Master has taken a liking to Ling Tian based on his innate talent and wants to take him in as his direct disciple. At this moment, even Gao Peng did not realize he had guessed the truth. I think Ling Tian must know he'll become the Mansion Master's direct disciple soon. Due to this reason, he dares to treat Zhao Ji in such a manner, Gao Peng thought to himself as he felt more at ease. He no longer felt worried for him when he thought about this. If Xiao Yi and his disciple knew what was going through Gao Peng's mind, they would be astonished by how accurate it was. On the other hand, if Duan Ling Tian knew about Gao Peng's thoughts, he would only smile since he had no intention of becoming the Mansion Master's disciple at all. Previously, he did not have a master on Cloud Continent due to the memories of the rebirth Martial Emperor. Not many people were qualified to become his master because of that. When he came to the Dao Martial Saint Land, due to the Supreme Sword Dao mental cultivation method, Sovereign Heart Sword, he had become the successor of Sword Saint Feng Qingyang whom he had never met before. Due to the fact that he had gained so much from the Sovereign Heart Sword, Duan Ling Tian had also regarded Feng Qingyang as his own master. In his heart, there was only place for one master. Due to this reason, even if the Mansion Master came to find him personally to accept him as his direct disciple, he would reject it since he already had a master. It was fortunate nobody in attendance knew Duan Ling Tian's thoughts. Otherwise, he would have been shredded into pieces. Among those in attendance, was there anyone who did not want to be the direct disciple of the Lord Mansion Master? How dare Duan Ling Tian had such thoughts? He actually wanted to reject the Lord Mansion Master if he asked him to become his direct disciple. Although only 40 over people witnessed the dispute between Ling Tian and Zhao Ji, every single one of them looked at Duan Ling Tian with a hint of pity in their eyes since they did not think Duan Ling Tian would win against Zhao Ji. In the mystical sky mansion, particularly in the Heaven Palace, Zhao Ji was famous for his position. Even the Palace Master of Heaven Palace had to give face to Zhao Ji due to his father and grandfather when it came to matters regarding Zhao Ji. In their eyes, Ling Tian was a Heaven Palace's disciple who had high innate talent, but he had not grown into his full potential yet. He was someone who was unable to compete with Zhao Ji at all. Many eminent saint stage disciples would come to look for trouble with Ling Tian with just a few casual words from Zhao Ji. Perhaps Zhao Ji's influence alone was very limited. However, his father was one of the Vice Mansion Masters, and his grandfather was one of 2 guardians of Mystical Sky Mansion. Both his father and grandfather had many powerful disciples. When Zhao Ji had left into the distance in his rage, Wang Feizan's voice transmission entered Duan Ling Tian's ears. "You're really too reckless, Zhao Ji's not an ordinary Heaven Palace's disciple." Her tone was filled with a hint of worry. Duan Ling Tian felt a sense of warmth in his heart when he noticed the worry in her eyes. He could not help but tease her. "What, our great young Miss Wang actually fears somebody?" If it was the usual, Wang Feizan would retort sharply. However, not only did she not do that, but she even said, "I know you're not afraid of Zhao Ji, and he's not a match for you at all. But his father and grandfather are no ordinary people. If they join forces, apart from the Mansion Master and the other guardian, nobody else in the Mystical Sky Mansion is a match for them." When Duan Ling Tian saw how worried Wang Feizan was, he no longer teased her and told her directly, "I know who his father and grandfather are." "Then, earlier, why did you?" Wang Feizan was rendered speechless when she heard Duan Ling Tian's words. "What do you think I should have done then? Bow before him?" Duan Ling Tian shook his head with a smile. It was as though he was not concerned about the earlier incident. In truth, he really was not bothered by the earlier incident. Zhao Ji was nothing more than a good-for-nothing who took advantage of his powerful connections to bully others. Why should he, Duan Ling Tian, fear him? It was not that it did not cross his mind that Zhao Ji would most probably find other people at the eminent saint stage to teach him a lesson. Perhaps, some powerhouses at the divine saint stage might even try to help him, but they would not do it in a direct way since the gap between their strength was too wide. If a powerhouse at that stage attacked him in the open, he would only invite gossip unto himself. At that time, the other high-ranking officials in the Mystical Sky Mansion, including the Mansion Master, would not be able to turn a blind eye to the matter. As for those eminent saint stage powerhouses, he did not mind luring them to some secluded place if they really enraged him. He would then use his Jasper celestial sword to kill them. With his current prowess, Duan Lingtian was more than 90% confident he could kill eminent saint stage powerhouses with the help of his Jasper celestial sword. This included most powerhouses at the peak of the eminent saint stage as well. I really wonder why he's so daring. We're talking about one of the Vice Mansion Masters and the guardian of the mystical Sky Mansion. Wang Feizan was even more speechless when she saw the smile on Lingtian's face. Don't tell me you think his father and grandfather will personally seek revenge on his behalf and attack me? Duan Lingtian asked indifferently. Is there even a need for his father and grandfather to personally take revenge for him? Many of the disciples under his father are eminent saint stage disciples in the mystical sky ranking. Any one of them is more than you can handle. Wang Feizan replied again. Naturally, she would not have said such a thing if she knew what Duan Lingtian was thinking. Duan Lingtian offended Zhao Ji. He's too reckless, isn't he? We're talking about Zhao Ji for goodness sake. It's most likely because he doesn't know about Zhao Ji's background. Otherwise, even if he's a martial cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage and the most powerful person among the younger generation in our mystical sky mansion, he would not have acted so recklessly. That's right, I really don't think I've heard of anyone offending Zhao Ji in such a manner. Lingtian's doomed. The group of mystical Sky Mansion's disciples who had retreated into the distance had also learned about the dispute between Duan Lingtian and Zhao Ji. They all broke out in cold sweat on Duan Lingtian's behalf. In their opinion, the outcome of the dispute between Duan Lingtian and Zhao Ji was no different from a mantis trying to stop a chariot with the mantis being Duan Lingtian. If it was Zhao Ji alone, perhaps, the situation would have been different. However, the problem was Zhao Ji was not alone. He had a big web of connections behind him. There were many powerful powerhouses in mystical Sky Mansion among his connections. Apart from the innumerable eminent saint stage powerhouses, there were even many powerhouses at the divine saint stage. Perhaps, this was just the beginning of Zhao Ji and Duan Lingtian's dispute. However, to the people present on the scene, they were more interested in the competition to earn a spot to enter the Saint Martial secret zone that was going to be held in Heaven Palace. The reason they came today was for the competition to earn a spot to enter the Saint Martial secret zone after all. At this moment, Xiao Yi, the Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace announced, "Now, every Heaven Palace's disciple who's qualified to enter the Saint Martial secret zone rise up into the air to my level." Although his voice was not loud, it was clearly heard by everyone, including Duan Lingtian. At once, over 40 Heaven Palace's disciples who fit the criteria rose up into the air one after another to Xiao Yi's level. Duan Lingtian's heart jolted when faced with this scene. There was a trace of confusion on his face. This scene seems a little familiar. Wang Feizan's voice transmission entered Duan Lingtian's ears in a timely manner. Don't you think this scene is similar to what we first went through to enter the mystical Sky Mansion? Don't tell me the competition today is going to be similar to the previous time. Before Duan Lingtian could finish his words, Xiao Yi had already risen up to an even higher spot. He announced in a timely manner, "Are all of you ready? I'll exert pressure on all of you soon. I'll only retract the pressure when 10 people remain at the same level I'm at." As I expected, Duan Lingtian smiled wryly. It was indeed as he had guessed. The test was similar to before. Chapter 1749. Although the pressure test was simple and ruthless, one had to admit it was a very efficient test with an undeniable result. When Duan Lingtian and the other Heaven Palace's disciples saw Xiao Yi, the Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace had risen up into the sky, a few of the remaining people had a grave expression on their faces as they mobilized the true origins in their bodies to cover the surface of their bodies. They were preparing to endure the pressure that would appear at any time now. Soon after, the pressure arrived. In the beginning, the pressure was not heavy. However, as time went by, it became more intense. As the pressure increased bit by bit, the spectators from afar could clearly see that among the 40 over people in the sky, many of their faces began to turn red as though they were withstanding great pressure. After a few moments, those whose faces had turned red fell from the sky due to the pressure. This also meant they had lost the chance to enter the Saint Martial secret zone. 5 people were eliminated in the first wave. Now that 5 people had been eliminated, naturally, it pressured the remaining Heaven Palace's disciples who were below the refined saint stage such as Lu Jian and Ren Fei. Each of them had a grave expression on their faces as they resisted the ever-increasing pressure with all their might. As for those Heaven Palace's disciples at the refined saint stage like Duan Lingtian, Wang Feizan, Gao Peng, and Zhao Ji, they were hovering in the air as though they were not affected by the pressure at all. Since they were at the refined saint stage, the others' strength was far from being comparable to theirs. They did not feel the pressure like the others did, by the others now. The faces of many disciples below the refined saint stage, including Ren Fei, had begun to turn red as well. Sweat even formed on some of their foreheads as their bodies trembled. It was apparent they could not endure any longer. Whoosh! Soon after, another Heaven Palace's disciple could no longer endure the pressure and fell from the sky. Naturally, this meant he had been eliminated and lost the chance to enter the Saint Martial secret zone. This Ren Fei, Duan Lingtian hovered in the air easily. His gaze swept past a group of pristine Saint Stage Heaven Palace's disciples. In the end, it landed on Ren Fei. Duan Lingtian frowned. With just a glance, he could tell Ren Fei's situation was not too promising. He'll most likely be disqualified soon. At the same time, Wang Feizan's voice reverberated in Duan Lingtian's ears. It was apparent she had also noticed Ren Fei's current situation. Looks like he doesn't have the luck to enjoy your good intention. Duan Lingtian nodded and instinctively looked at Lu Jian. He was at the peak of the pristine saint stage after all, so his current situation was much better compared to Ren Fei, who was at the mastery pristine saint stage. Moreover, he was much better than many of the Heaven Palace's disciples at the peak of the pristine saint stage too. Lu Jian should be able to pass this competition. Wang Feizan's voice resonated in Duan Lingtian's ears again. It was apparent that she had also checked out Lu Jian's situation after she looked at Ren Fei. Yes, Duan Lingtian responded. Even if Wang Feizan did not tell him, he could already see it for himself. He thought to himself, looks like I'll only be able to repay Elder Lu this time. As for Vice Mansion Master Ren, I can only return it next time if I have the chance. The Elder Lu mentioned by Duan Lingtian was none other than Lu Hongguang, the second elder of Raging Wave Mansion. As for Vice Mansion Master Ren, it was Ren Zhang, the Vice Mansion Master of the Sky Hurdle Mansion. The two of them were the moderators for the Rising Sky ranking battle and had helped Duan Lingtian a lot during the Rising Sky ranking battle. He, originally, had the intention to join one of their forces to return their favors. However, it did not cross his mind when he left Nimble Valley to wait for Ren Zhang and Lu Hongguang. He had accidentally learned about the mystical Sky Mansion recruiting saint stage geniuses below the age of 40. Due to this reason, he had decisively stood both of them up. He had been feeling guilty about this and wanted to look for a chance to repay them. The mystical Sky Mansion's Saint Martial secret zone seemed like a good opportunity for him to repay them. Unfortunately, in order to repay them in the Saint Martial secret zone, he would also need their help as well. It was apparent it was impossible for Ren Fei from the Sky Hurdle Mansion to obtain a spot in entering the Saint Martial secret zone. There was nothing Duan Lingtian could do about this even though he wanted to help. Just as how he and Wang Feizan had predicted, Ren Fei was eliminated soon after. After Ren Fei was eliminated, he looked at Duan Lingtian who was hovering in the sky dejectedly and sighed deeply. He knew he had lost a great opportunity. He would have been able to work together with Duan Lingtian if he could earn a spot to enter the Saint Martial secret zone. With Duan Lingtian's help, he would definitely be able to comprehend a high-grade divine ability relic inside the Saint Martial secret zone. However, he had failed to earn a spot in entering the Saint Martial secret zone. He was destined to have no fate with the divine ability relic inside the Saint Martial secret zone. God really played a big joke on me. He dangled a cookie in front of me, but I only realized it's inedible when I wanted to eat it. This was Ren Fei's current feeling. However, since Ren Fei had been mentally prepared to be eliminated from the beginning, he was not too dejected. He only felt regretful. After he had retreated to one side, he looked at Lu Jian who was still hovering in the sky enviously. Judging by how at ease Lu Jian looks, I'm sure it won't be difficult for him to enter the Saint Martial secret zone. How enviable. I can just imagine the benefits he's going to reap by following Lingtian and Wang Feizan into the Saint Martial secret zone. Ren Fei's eyes seemed as though they were about to shoot fire when he thought about this. His eyes were filled with hints of envy and jealousy. He believed Lu Jian would certainly be able to comprehend a high-grade divine ability relic under Duan Lingtian's care. How useless. When Wang Feizan saw Ren Fei being eliminated, she could not help but curse under her breath even though she knew this was going to happen. Duan Lingtian was not surprised since he was already used to this side of the great young Miss Wang. Ren Fei, I remember there's another person from your Sky Hurdle Mansion who has entered the mystical Sky Mansion, the other person seems to be at the Mastery Pristine Saint stage. Between you and him, who's stronger? He seems to have gone to the mystical palace in the end, do you think he stands a chance in entering the Saint Martial secret zone? Although Duan Lingtian had planned to return Ren Zong's favor another time, it would still be better if he could repay him earlier in the Saint Martial secret zone. It would lift a big burden off him as well. After Ren Fei was eliminated, he recalled that Ren Zhong had brought 2 men with him when he came to the mystical Sky Mansion. The other person was also at the Mastery Pristine Saint stage. His strength is slightly inferior to me. I'm not too sure either if he'll be able to earn a spot to enter the Saint Martial secret zone in the mystical palace's competition. Be that as it may, I believe he stands a greater chance than I did, although the spots given to the mystical palace are not as many as the Heaven Palace since the competition is not as stiff over there, Ren Fei replied through voice transmission when he heard Duan Lingtian's question. His tone was a little sour when he reached the end of his sentence. At that time, he had joined the Heaven Palace because he was selected by Xiao Yi, the Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace. He did not have the chance to choose where to go since he was neither Duan Lingtian nor Wang Feizan. If he could have chosen, he certainly would not have picked the Heaven Palace. As the saying went, it's better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. That's good. If I happen to meet him in the Saint Martial secret zone, I'll do my best to help him, Duan Lingtian told him through voice transmission. Thank you. When Ren Fei heard his words, he immediately expressed his gratitude. However, he could not help but ask, Lingtian, is it possible for you to tell me why you're helping us? I heard Lu Jian said you're repaying our senior's favors. Can you tell me what favor is it? Strictly speaking, it's not me who owes your senior a favor. It's a friend of mine. At that time, due to some urgent matter, he stood your senior up. For that reason, he has been feeling guilty about it. Half a year ago, he has broken through to the eminent saint stage and left the lower province. Before he went to the upper province, he told me to help him return the favor to your senior if I have the chance, Duan Lingtian answered. He believed his words were enough to convince Ren Fei, the disciple from the Sky Hurdle Mansion, and Lu Jian, the disciple from the Raging Wave Mansion, that he had a close relationship with Li Feng, the strongest person on the Rising Sky ranking. After all, that Rising Sky ranking battle was presided by the Vice Mansion Master of Sky Hurdle Mansion and the second Elder of Raging Wave Mansion. They must have described the techniques Li Feng had displayed previously to their juniors without missing any detail. This obviously included the Sun True Origin and the Bright as the Sun territory. For this reason, he seized the opportunity and implied that Li Feng was his friend. I was right, you're indeed connected to Li Feng. Ren Fei finally managed to confirm his suspicion, but a hint of bafflement could be heard in his voice as well. Earlier, you said Li Feng has broken through to the eminent saint stage half a year ago. His voice trembled slightly when he asked his question. Li Feng had not even reached the age of 40, but he had already broken through to the eminent saint stage. Ren Fei's innate talent was far too lacking compared to someone like that. A sense of helplessness overwhelmed him. Yes, Duan Lingtian nodded. Can you please tell me what relationship you have with Li Feng? Why are both your true origins and territories so identical? Ren Fei could not help but ask. This was also the question that was bothering him the most. Strictly speaking, he can be considered as my senior brother, Duan Lingtian replied through voice transmission. Our master is someone from the Dao Martial Saint Land. Many years ago, he came to the lower province to live in seclusion and took me and Li Feng as his disciples. Both of us were together since young, and we cultivated the same cultivation method. Even the martial tactics we cultivated are identical as well. In the end, even the territories we mastered are almost identical. Your master must be a powerhouse from the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, Ren Fei said enviously. Perhaps, but he has already gone to the upper province 10 years ago. Even both of us have to rely on our strength to break through to the eminent saint stage and find him in the upper province, Duan Lingtian replied. From the beginning until the end, there was no flaw in Duan Lingtian's story at all. It was so convincing that Ren Fei did not doubt him at all. Chapter 1750. It was not unusual in the Dao Martial Saint Land for two people to cultivate the same cultivation technique and martial tactics since young to have near identical true origins and territories. For this reason, Ren Fei did not doubt Duan Lingtian's words. Naturally, it would never occur to him even in his wildest dreams that these words by Duan Lingtian were all false. As time passed by, the remaining refined saint stage Heaven Palace's disciples, apart from Duan Lingtian, Wang Feizan, Gao Peng, and Zhao Ji, began to sweat on their foreheads. As for the remaining Heaven Palace's disciples who were at the peak of the pristine saint stage, their bodies trembled constantly since they were just hanging by a thread. Even Lu Jian's face was extremely pale, and his body had begun to tremble slightly. Xiao Yi, the Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace, did not miss the crowd's reaction. He found it normal that Duan Lingtian, Gao Peng, and Zhao Ji to be calm since the two weakest among these three were at the intermediate refined saint stage. It was normal for an intermediate refined saint stage powerhouse to feel at ease with the pressure he was currently exerting. This was also another reason Ren Fei did not doubt Duan Lingtian's words. However, the strange thing was Wang Feizan was as calm as the other two. She has broken through. Xiao Yi was not an idiot, so it was easy for him to come to a conclusion. Moreover, this was the only possible explanation for Wang Feizan's situation. Box novel. Siom. Previously, he had also heard that Wang Feizan's cultivation base was close to the intermediate refined saint stage. It was only logical that she had made a breakthrough. I can't believe that apart from Duan Lingtian, there's another outstanding genius who joined our Heaven Palace. Wang Feizan's even younger than Gao Peng. With such an accomplishment, it can be said that her innate talent is not inferior to Gao Peng and Zhao Ji. When Xiao Yi thought of this, he was delighted. He was the one who had recruited Duan Lingtian and Wang Feizan after all. In the end, a few more Heaven Palace's disciples at the peak of the pristine saint stage could no longer withstand the pressure and began to fall from the sky. When there were only 10 people remaining at Duan Lingtian's level, the pressure vanished immediately. The result of the competition was clear. If one were to pay close attention, one would definitely realize Duan Lingtian was completely unaffected. He was not even panting. However, Gao Peng, Zhao Ji, and Wang Feizan's breathing had begun to quicken. The pressure earlier had also affected them to a certain extent. Naturally, it only affected their breathing a little. Congratulations, Lu Jian. Ren Fei looked at one of the 10 people who remained standing until the very end with slight jealousy as he congratulated him. Lu Jian, the disciple of the Raging Wave Mansion, one of the people Duan Lingtian planned to help, had successfully earned a spot to enter the Saint Martial Secret Zone. Thank you. Although Lu Jian's face was pale, there were hints of joy in his eyes as well. After all, he had successfully obtained a spot to enter the Saint Martial Secret Zone. He knew this meant he would be able to enter the Saint Martial Secret Zone and comprehend a divine ability relic. With Lingtian's help, he might even be able to comprehend one of those high-grade divine ability relic inside the Saint Martial Secret Zone. 10 of you, come back and gather here in 10 days' time. At that time, Lord Palace Master will personally bring all of you to the entrance of the Saint Martial Secret Zone and send all of you in there. Xiao Yi's divine consciousness stretched out and swept over the 10 people, including Duan Lingtian, as he memorized them. After Xiao Yi finished speaking, he left as fast as he had appeared. I can't believe that it's over so fast. Many people sighed emotionally. Just a little bit more. In the end, I still let the chance of entering the Saint Martial Secret Zone slipped away. The few Heaven Palace's disciples at the peak of the pristine saint stage who was eliminated toward the end shook their heads. Hints of unwillingness could be seen in their eyes. However, there was nothing they could do even if they felt unwilling, since they really could not withstand the pressure and were eliminated before the other disciples at the peak of the pristine saint stage. If only they could endure for a span of a few more breaths, they might not be the ones who were eliminated. All in all, it was their own strength that was still lacking. Some people were sad while some were delighted. Haha, I'm coming, Saint Martial Secret Zone. Many of Heaven Palace's disciples who obtained the opportunity to enter the Saint Martial Secret Zone exclaimed in happiness. Wang Pai had appeared next to Duan Lingtian. He looked at Wang Feizan in shock as he asked, Wang Feizan, why you've broken through to the intermediate refined saint stage as well? Earlier, he had also witnessed Wang Feizan's performance. She was in no way inferior to Gao Peng or Zhao Ji at all. Yes, although Wang Pai already knew this, he was still shocked when Wang Feizan nodded her head in confirmation. He congratulated her. Congratulations. Thank you, senior brother Wang Pai. Faced with Wang Pai, she did not dare to be rude, since he was not only Xiao Yi's direct disciple, but he was also an eminent saint stage disciple in the mystical sky mansion. A powerhouse at the eminent saint stage was somebody worthy of her respect. Wang Feizan has made a breakthrough. Gao Peng, who was standing not far away, heard the exchange between Wang Pai and Wang Feizan. For a moment, he was dumbstruck as well. He had heard of Wang Feizan before and knew that she was widely acknowledged as the strongest female powerhouse among the younger generation in the Mystical Sky District. He had also heard about her joining the Mystical Sky Mansion some time ago. Although Wang Feizan was powerful, she was only at the early refined saint stage at that time. He did not expect her cultivation base was not inferior to his Zhaoji's after 2 months had passed. She was not even 40 years old yet, but she was already at the intermediate refined saint stage. In the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, such innate talent could be considered as quite outstanding. Box novel. Although there were not many men with such innate talent in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, there were still quite a number of them. However, it was extremely rare for a female to possess such innate talent. After all, females were born slightly weaker than men. Wang Feizan. Zhao Ji's gaze landed on Wang Feizan as a hint of lust and desire flashed across his eyes. Although he had heard of Wang Feizan before this, he had never seen her before, so he thought the rumors were all exaggerated. This was because he did not believe a female martial cultivator with such innate talent would possess such a beautiful appearance. He did not think there would be such a perfect woman in this world. However, now that he had seen Wang Feizan, he realized there was indeed such a perfect woman in this world. God seemed to have given her the best of everything. Innate talent, looks, and body. Every positive point about Wang Feizan aroused an intense sense of desire to conquer her from the bottom of his heart. I, Zhao Ji, must have this woman. Miss Feizan has broken through to the intermediate refined saint stage. Soon after, the spectators learned about Wang Feizan's breakthrough, and it set off another commotion. Miss Feizan, senior brother Ling Tian, I've done it. Lu Jian came to stand next to Duan Ling Tian and Wang Feizan. Colors had begun to return to his face, and his eyes were filled with excitement. Congratulations. Wang Feizan nodded casually. Duan Ling Tian did not say anything and nodded in response. What's this? Wang Pai was confused. He did not know why Lu Jian would come to find Duan Ling Tian and Wang Feizan and said such words after obtaining the spot to enter the Saint Martial Secret Zone. Senior brother Wang Pai, the three of us plan to work together when we enter the Saint Martial Secret Zone, Duan Ling Tian explained. The three of you are planning on working together. When Wang Pai heard his words, his eyes turned as wide as saucers. He looked at Duan Ling Tian before he looked at Wang Feizan. If both of you join forces, you'll be able to roam unfettered in the Saint Martial Secret Zone with your current strength. However, if you bring him along, he'll just drag both of you down, right? When Wang Pai reached the end of his sentence, he even glanced at Lu Jian. However, Lu Jian did not feel awkward at all since he felt the same way. He was lucky for being able to ally himself with Duan Ling Tian and Wang Feizan. Working together. Gao Peng heard Duan Ling Tian's words, and his eyes lit up immediately. He looked at Duan Ling Tian with slight excitement in his eyes. Ling Tian, can I join the three of you? When Duan Ling Tian heard his words, he felt a little awkward. He had a good impression of Gao Peng, but that did not mean he wanted to bring an additional person with him in the Saint Martial Secret Zone. Most importantly, he was not even friends with Gao Peng. In the Saint Martial Secret Zone, let alone Gao Peng and Wang Feizan, who were intermediate refined saint stage martial cultivators, even if a mastery refined saint stage martial cultivator were to follow him, it would only drag him down. There was a reason for him working together with Wang Feizan and Lu Jian. Wang Feizan could be roughly considered as a friend, and he wanted to repay Lu Hongguang through Lu Jian. At this moment when Duan Ling Tian was placed in an awkward position, Wang Feizan, who seemed to have seen through his awkwardness, looked at Gao Peng and said, Senior brother Gao Peng, I'm afraid you can't. The number of people in our alliance has reached its limit. After all, we don't even know if the three of us will be able to find 3 or more divine ability relics inside. Due to this reason, it might not be advantageous for you to follow us, senior brother Gao Peng. Moreover, with your prowess, I'm sure you'll be able to find quite a good divine ability relic even if you don't join us. When Wang Feizan this part of the sentence, she looked at Lu Jian before saying again, we're only bringing Lu Jian because Ling Tian wants to repay a favor by Lu Jian's senior. If we manage to find a high-grade divine ability relic inside the Saint Martial Secret Zone, we'll give him the priority to comprehend it first. I'm sure you're unwilling to do that, right? You're giving him a priority in comprehending a high-grade divine ability relic. Gao Peng was still calm when he listened to the first half of Wang Feizan's sentence, but he could not fathom the second half of her sentence. In his opinion, Lu Jian was merely a martial cultivator at the peak of the pristine saint stage, and he would definitely be a hindrance to them in the Saint Martial secret zone. However, they're planning to give someone like that the priority to comprehend a high-grade divine ability relic. In fact, not only was one person allowed to comprehend the divine ability relic inside the Saint Martial secret zone, but after that person had comprehended it, the divine ability relic would disappear along with its formation and would be impossible to be found again. Due to this reason, only one person would be able to comprehend each divine ability relic that was found. Chapter 1751. Gao Peng no longer mentioned working together again after he flashed an apologetic smile to Duan Lingtian. He could not accept that Lu Jian would be given the priority to comprehend a high-grade divine ability relic first, since he thought Lu Jian was just a hindrance. From the beginning until the end, he acted as though he was in the wrong in front of Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian nodded at Gao Peng before he turned to look at Wang Feizan and said through voice transmission, "Great young Miss Wang, not bad." His tone was filled with admiration. Not only did Wang Feizan manage to dismiss Gao Peng with just a few words, but it also removed Duan Lingtian from the awkward position he was in. She even managed to evoke guilt in Gao Peng. He sincerely admired her technique. "Even if you reject him, he wouldn't have dared to say anything or hold any grudge," Wang Feizan replied through voice transmission, as well as she rolled her eyes at Duan Lingtian. Indeed, with Duan Lingtian's prowess, Gao Peng would not dare hold any grudge even if Duan Lingtian had rejected him directly. Upon hearing her words, Duan Lingtian smiled awkwardly. "Feizan." At this moment, a voice called out. Duan Lingtian and the others were not strangers to the voice. It belonged to Zhao Ji. When Duan Lingtian heard this, he frowned. He looked at Wang Feizan with a look in his eyes as though he was asking if she knew him. When Wang Feizan saw the question in his eyes, she shook her head. At the same time, she turned around with a solemn expression on her face and looked at Zhao Ji, who brought his two lackeys with him. He approached them, and she said, "Do you know me?" When Zhao Ji approached them, he ignored Duan Lingtian completely. His burning gaze was solely focused on Wang Feizan as he said, "Feizan, don't tell me you've forgotten me. I'm brother Zhao Ji. Don't you remember I followed by my father to visit your father at the tyrannic saber mansion once when you were 3 years old?" When she heard his words, she replied indifferently without any consideration for his feelings, "I don't remember this, and I don't remember my grandfather mentioning this before." She should be wary of Zhao Ji, but when she saw him trying to woo her in such a manner, it only aroused a sense of disgust in her. Moreover, she even showed her displeasure through her words. She only had one thought in her mind. She hoped that Duan Lingtian would not misunderstand things. Besides, she really did not know Zhao Ji at all, and her grandfather really did not mention him to her at all. She was also uncertain if Zhao Ji's words were true or not. What? When Zhao Ji heard Wang Feizan's words, he was shocked. "Don't tell me your grandfather has never told you there's a marriage arrangement between us. The marriage agreement was agreed upon when you were 3 years old." Marriage arrangement. As soon as Zhao Ji's words left his mouth, the entire place broke into an uproar. When the crowd shifted their eyes to Wang Feizan, Duan Lingtian also shifted his gaze to her. He did not expect there was a marriage arrangement between Wang Feizan and this good-for-nothing disciple. No way. Zhao Ji and Miss Feizan actually have a marriage arrangement. Why haven't I heard of this before? That's right, nobody has heard of it at all. If Zhao Ji really does have a marriage arrangement with Wang Feizan, I'm sure this news would have long spread out in the mystical sky district long ago. How could we possibly not know about it? Could Zhao Ji be lying? The group of mystical sky mansion's disciples in the surrounding whispered among themselves. Many of them looked at Zhao Ji skeptically. Marriage arrangement. Upon hearing Zhao Ji's words, Wang Feizan burst out laughing instead. "Zhao Ji, are you dreaming? If I really have a marriage arrangement with you, there's no way I wouldn't know about it. Moreover, would my grandfather not tell me about it? What a joke." The moment her words left her mouth, even more people were certain Zhao Ji was lying. "I said we have a marriage arrangement, so there's definitely a marriage arrangement." Faced with everyone's skeptical looks, Zhao Ji sneered. "After some time, when my father comes out of closed-door cultivation, I'll ask him to personally visit the tyrannic saber mansion to propose marriage. I believe your grandfather won't reject a marriage proposal from our family." When he reached the end of his sentence, a hint of craze could be seen in his eyes. At the same time, he transmitted his voice to Wang Feizan. Wang Feizan, you're lucky that I fell for you. Upon hearing his voice transmission, hints of disgust were apparent in Wang Feizan's eyes as she made her stance clear by saying, you want me, Wang Feizan, to marry you. You wish. I'm afraid it's not up to you to make the decision. Zhao Ji's evil-looking sneer turned wider. Judging from his gaze as he looked at her, it was as though he already had her in his palm. When Wang Feizan heard his words, her expression turned grave immediately. If Zhao Ji's father really went to their tyrannic saber mansion to propose marriage, it would be indeed difficult for her grandfather to reject it. If he rejected it, it would offend Zhao Ji's father, the vice-mansion master of Mystical Sky Mansion. Apart from that, they would also offend Zhao Ji's grandfather, one of the two guardians of the Mystical Sky Mansion. Although the Mystical Sky Mansion would never make things difficult for the tyrannic Saber Mansion due to Zhao Ji's personal affair, and her grandfather was not afraid his father at all, her grandfather still had to be wary of his grandfather since he was an elite powerhouse in the Mystical Sky Mansion. His strength was only inferior to the mansion master of the Mystical Sky Mansion. At this moment, many people were looking at Wang Feizan with a sympathetic gaze. Suddenly, a voice said, "How noisy." The crowd only saw a flash before their eyes as though they were blinded by the sun for a moment before they heard the sound of an explosion reverberating in the air. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, a spectre-like figure appeared at the spot Zhao Ji was originally standing at. Meanwhile, Zhao Ji was sent flying into the distance. He appeared extremely wretched as he was sent flying and threw up a mouthful of blood that decorated the sky like red roses. Silence. The crowd shifted their eyes silently to the figure that was standing at Zhao Ji's original spot. Boom! Along with a loud sound, Zhao Ji fell violently to the ground. He rolled on the ground a few times before his true origin finally freed itself from the restraint and helped stabilize him. When Zhao Ji stood up, his face was as pale as a sheet of paper. However, his expression was extremely grim, and his eyes gleamed terrifyingly. Ling Tian, how dare you sneak an attack on me? You're seeking death. Zhao Ji stared at the young man who sent him flying. The look in his eyes and the tone of his voice was filled with killing intent. Sneak attack. When Duan Ling Tian heard his words, he smiled nonchalantly. Then, does this mean you're unhappy with my sneak attack? How about this? Let's fight this out fair and square. I'll allow you to make the first 3 moves. Fight it out fair and square. Letting him make the first 3 moves. The moment Duan Ling Tian's words left his mouth, the crowd regained their senses. Many of them looked at Zhao Ji mockingly. Based on what they knew, Zhao Ji was only an intermediate refined saint stage martial cultivator even though his background was extraordinary. If he really fought with Ling Tian in a fair fight, it would be equivalent to him digging his own grave. Who was Ling Tian? He was the stronger person among the younger generation in the Mystical Sky Mansion. He had not even reached the age of 40, but his cultivation base was already at the peak of the refined saint stage. With Zhao Ji's strength, how could he be a match to someone like that? Even if Ling Tian allowed Zhao Ji to make the first 3 moves, and he only used defensive techniques, it would still be impossible for Zhao Ji to break his defense. The gap between their strength was just too wide. Faced with Duan Ling Tian's challenge, Zhao Ji's expression changed drastically. His face turned green before it paled. He was not an idiot. There was no way he would accept Duan Ling Tian's challenge. Even if Duan Ling Tian allowed him to make the first 3 moves, he would only be digging his own grave. Since everyone's attention was focused on Zhao Ji, nobody realized that one of the 2 Heaven Palace's disciples who followed Zhao Ji had left quietly. After he left the summit and the Heaven Palace, he went to the main mansion. As expected, he cares about me. When Wang Feizan saw Duan Ling Tian seeking revenge on her behalf, a huge smile appeared on her face. Her eyes were gentle as she looked at him. Zhao Ji stared coldly at Duan Ling Tian as he asked in a deep voice, "Ling Tian, don't be too arrogant. I didn't look for trouble with you, is there a need for you to injure me?" "Why did I injure you?" Duan Ling Tian smiled. "Don't tell me you really don't know why I injured you. If you don't give me an explanation, I won't let this matter go. Don't think you can do as you wish in the Mystical Sky Mansion just because you're strong and have high innate talent. Let me tell you, there are many people in the Mystical Sky Mansion who are even more powerful than you. Any one of my father's direct disciples is able to make sure you die a terrible death." When Zhao Ji reached the end of his sentence, he threatened Duan Ling Tian. "You bullied a weak woman under everyone's watchful eyes, and yet, you're acting so righteous." Duan Ling Tian smirked. He was calm from the beginning until the end. He was not afraid of Zhao Ji at all. In fact, it seemed like he did not pay any attention to Zhao Ji's threats at all. So you were seeking revenge for her? Zhao Ji's eyes shifted from Duan Lingtian to Wang Feizan before he smirked. I've made up my mind to make you mine, so you'll definitely be mine. I believe your grandfather, the mansion master of Tyrannic Saber Mansion, would agree to my marriage proposal. After we're married, and I'm done playing with you, I'll find 100 burly men to play with you. Naturally, Zhao Ji only said this to Wang Feizan through voice transmission. Even if I, Wang Feizan, have to die, I'll never marry you. Wang Feizan replied bluntly through voice transmission. Even if her grandfather gave in to his demand, she would not marry Zhao Ji. She would rather die than marry him. Good, very good, let's wait and see then. Zhao Ji's voice transmission this time seemed to be filled with rage. In the end, he added again after he had calmed down, my man has already gone to the mystical sky mansion to invite my senior brother over. When my senior brother arrives, I'll let you witness with your own eyes the tragic outcome of that fellow who sought revenge on your behalf. Wang Feizan was not afraid of death, but she would never put Duan Lingtian in danger for her own sake no matter what. Hurry up, tell senior brother Wang Pai that we need Vice Palace Master Xiao Yi. Zhao Ji has already asked one of his men to invite his senior brother from the main mansion over. I suspect his senior brother is his father's direct disciple and an eminent saint stage disciple on the mystical sky ranking. Wang Feizan warned Duan Lingtian immediately through voice transmission. Her tone was filled with anxiousness. Chapter 1752, The Eminent Saint Stage Disciples on the Mystical Sky Ranking from the Main Mansion. Upon hearing Wang Feizan's voice transmission, Duan Lingtian's gaze turned cold. When it shifted to Zhao Ji again, a terrifying killing intent could be seen in his eyes. Originally, he had only attacked because he wanted to teach Zhao Ji a lesson to let him know that not everyone could be bullied by him. At the very least, not his, Duan Lingtian, friends. Although he was unwilling to admit it, he had already regarded Wang Feizan as a friend in his heart. How could he possibly tolerate it when he saw his friend being teased and bullied in front of him? If he could tolerate such a sight, he would no longer be Duan Lingtian. Whoosh! As though a gust of wind had blown past, Duan Lingtian disappeared from where he was standing. Junior brother Lingtian, Wang Pai's expression turned grave as he tried to stop Duan Lingtian, but it was too late. Slap! The crisp sound of a slap resonated in the air. Under the watchful eyes of the others, Duan Lingtian had appeared in front of Zhao Ji, and one side of Zhao Ji's face was already swollen. A clear palm print could be seen on his face. Zhao Ji's expression turned grave as he glared at Duan Lingtian viciously. He opened his mouth to say, Ling, however, before he could finish his words, the sound of another slap resonated in the air. Duan Lingtian had slapped him another time on the other side of his face until it was swollen as well. The killing intent in Zhao Ji's eyes intensified, but he did not dare to say anything anymore. He was worried the man in front of him would make a move again if he spoke. Be patient, Zhao Ji. You must endure it. A wise man doesn't fight when the odds are against him. You'll definitely get your revenge in the future. You'll definitely make this guy die a horrible death. Zhao Ji repeatedly thought this in his mind as he tried to suppress the anger in his heart. It was only natural he felt so enraged that he was on the verge of going crazy. In his entire life, this was his first time being slapped on the face. Moreover, it was by someone who was almost his age. This was a humiliation to him, and it had been engraved deeply in his heart and bones. If this person in front of him did not die, he would not be able to live in peace. Gasp, 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 gasp. Meanwhile, the sound of people gasping resonated in the air. The crowd of people began to return to their senses one by one. They were completely shocked by what Duan Lingtian had done. Junior brother Lingtian's really, Wang Pai smiled wryly. He did not try to stop Duan Lingtian earlier because he also did not like Zhao Ji's behavior. However, when Duan Lingtian made his move again, he wanted to stop him, but it was too late. Lingtian's too ridiculous, right? Zhao Ji's not an ordinary Heaven Palace's disciple, many mystical Sky Mansion's disciples muttered among themselves, shocked. It was truly a shock to them both visually and mentally. They knew very well of Zhao Ji's background. In the mystical Sky Mansion, even those high-ranking elders in mystical Sky Mansion did not dare to simply offend Zhao Ji, let alone the disciples. However, Zhao Yi was beaten by a disciple who had not even reached the age of 40 and had just entered the mystical Sky Mansion not long ago. Moreover, he was even slapped twice. What a good fellow. Where does Ling Tian get his courage from? Who's the one giving him this courage? He's really doomed for offending Zhao Ji to such an extent. I don't think so. Don't forget that Ling Tian's also not an ordinary disciple in our mystical sky mansion. He's the strongest among the young generation in our mystical sky mansion and is the future hope of our mystical sky mansion. If he's in danger, I think even Lord Mansion Master will come out to protect him, right? You have a point. However, don't forget it's easy to kill someone in the mystical sky mansion without alerting Lord Mansion Master. Many mystical sky mansion's disciples whispered among themselves. They felt Duan Ling Tian was digging his own grave by treating Zhao Ji this way. Junior brother Ling Tian, don't be too rash. Wang Pai transmitted his voice to Duan Ling Tian. The first lesson you taught Zhao Ji can be considered as reasonable. However, the 2 slaps you've given him is only humiliation to him publicly. It's a little out of line. Wang Pai said that because he was unaware that Zhao Ji had already sent one of his men to the main mansion to look for eminent saint stage disciples on the mystical sky ranking to help him seek revenge from Duan Ling Tian. When Wang Feizan saw Duan Ling Tian gave Wang Feizan 2 slaps, she was also shocked. She only managed to regain her senses after a while. When she thought about Zhao Ji's background, she was overwhelmed with a sense of fear as she broke out in cold sweat on Duan Ling Tian's behalf. Your 2 slaps are too rash. Wang Feizan transmitted her voice to Duan Ling Tian. Her tone was filled with worry. By doing so, you've completely angered Zhao Ji. It looks like only one of you will be able to survive in the mystical sky mansion in the future. Although she knew the reason for the 2 slaps Duan Ling Tian had given Zhao Ji, she still felt he was being too rash. Naturally, she only felt this way because she was worried about him. Rash. When Duan Ling Tian heard her words, he did not explain himself. He knew Zhao Ji's background was extraordinary. However, it was not his style to stay meek and submit to being oppressed. In Duan Ling Tian's martial Dao's path, there was no space for fear at all. No matter how difficult the path in front of him was, he would still travel through it to rise and stand at the peak. At this time, Gao Peng had retreated into the distance. It was as though he was afraid he would be somehow implicated in this mess. I've only joined the mystical sky mansion not too long, so there's no one in particular that I admire. However, I must say that I really admire Ling Tian. Somebody shouted. Although his voice was not extremely loud, many people heard his words. I agree. Put aside the consequences he might face later, just his courage alone is admirable. Many mystical sky mansion's disciples chimed in. Some of them admired Duan Ling Tian for his courage. Naturally, there were also some that felt he was just seeking death. Ling Tian really thinks that he can act as he pleases in the mystical sky mansion because of his high innate talent. Why doesn't he take a look at his current cultivation base? There are many more people who are stronger than him in the mystical sky mansion. That's right, the person he had offended is not someone ordinary. It's Zhao Ji. Everyone knows of Zhao Ji's background. This time, Zhao Ji has suffered such humiliation. I'm sure the Vice Mansion Master and the Guardian won't let this matter go if they find out about it. Exactly. Perhaps the Vice Mansion Master and Guardian Elder might not personally make a move. However, it'll still be too much for Ling Tian to handle if they ask their subordinates to make a move. Perhaps, the Vice Mansion Master and the Guardian's men might not dare to kill him openly in the mystical sky mansion. However, who can guarantee they won't find an opportunity to kill him? Even if his innate talent is high, he's like floating smoke and passing clouds before he grows into his full potential. More mystical sky mansion's disciples felt it was unwise of Duan Ling Tian to offend Zhao Ji to such an extent. Naturally, Duan Ling Tian heard their words, but he was not bothered by it. He knew even if he did not make a move against Zhao Ji now, Zhao Ji still would not let matters go due to their earlier dispute. He was quite confident of his judgment of people. With just a glance, he could tell Zhao Ji was a petty person. He was the type to turn a molehill into a mountain. Due to this reason, Duan Ling Tian did not regret his actions at all. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Without warning, the sound of 3 gusts of wind whistling in the air reverberated in the distance. Soon enough, 3 figures appeared on the summit of the Heaven Palace. One of them was the person who had left quietly earlier. He was Zhao Ji's lackey. At this moment, he was standing behind 2 young men. Between the 2 young men, one was clad in white while the other was clad in black. As they hovered in the sky side by side, they looked like the black and white impermanence that came from hell to claim one's life. black and white impermanence are two deities in Chinese folk religion in charge of escorting the spirits of the dead to the underworld. Zhao Baiju, Zhao He Tu. When the white-clad and black-clad young men appeared, it, naturally, attracted many people's attention. Wang Pai was the first to regain his senses. When Wang Pai saw them, his expression turned grim immediately. At the same time, he transmitted his voice to Duan Ling Tian, who was standing not far away. Junior brother Ling Tian, come to my side. Hurry. Wang Pai's tone was filled with urgency. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian had also noticed the newcomers. He was not too surprised since Wang Feizan had warned him earlier. When he heard Wang Pai's words, he did not refuse Wang Pai's good intention. With just a flash, he appeared next to Wang Pai. When the two young men appeared, Zhao Ji, who was slapped by Duan Ling Tian until his face was swollen, finally dared to speak. He moved quickly to the two young men as he called out, Senior brother Baiju. Senior brother He Tu. Perhaps, Zhao Ji felt more secure now that he was standing next to the two young men. He glared at Duan Ling Tian with killing intent again. Senior brother Baiju, senior brother He Tu, it's him. He's Ling Tian. Not only did he injure me, but he even slapped me twice in front of everyone. He didn't only humiliate me by slapping me publicly, but he has humiliated my father as well. Zhao Ji's expression twisted in anger when he finished speaking. After listening to Zhao Ji's words, the two young men's expressions turned grave immediately. They glared at Duan Ling Tian with killing intent as well. That person in white is called Zhao Baiju while the one in black is called Zhao He Tu. These two are disciples that Zhao Ji's father had taken in a long time ago. Since they're both orphans, they had taken Zhao Ji's father's surname, Zhao. Although their strengths considered ordinary among all of Zhao Ji's father's disciples, their loyalty is not something the other disciples can compare to. Wang Pai's voice resonated by Duan Ling Tian's ears. Zhao Baiju, Zhao He Tu. Duan Ling Tian nodded. The two of them are eminent saint stage disciples who are on the mystical sky ranking. They are both early eminent saint stage martial cultivators like me, Wang Pai continued to add through his voice transmission. Early eminent saint stage. When Duan Ling Tian heard his words, his eyes brightened immediately. With his current strength, it could be considered as him bullying the weak if he fought with those below the eminent saint stage. It would be a most welcomed opportunity if he could fight a powerhouse at the eminent saint stage. Zhao Baiju's expression was grim when he stared at Duan Ling Tian and asked in a cold voice, "You're Ling Tian?" Chapter 1753. Faced with Zhao Baiju's almost interrogative tone, Duan Ling Tian merely glanced at him indifferently before ignoring him. Even if Zhao Baiju was a martial cultivator at the peak of the eminent saint stage, he, Duan Ling Tian, would not fear him at all, let alone the fact that he was only an early eminent saint stage martial cultivator. If Duan Ling Tian was really angry, he could have brandished his Jasper celestial sword and killed him instantly. It's Zhao Baiju and Zhao He Tu. Soon after, many mystical sky mansion's disciples on the scene began to recognize them. They exclaimed, "They're the eminent saint stage disciples on the mystical sky ranking and usually cultivates in the main mansion. Isn't the man behind both of them Zhao Ji's lackey? Since when did he leave? Seems like he went to look for Zhao Baiju and Zhao He Tu and asked them to come over." No wonder Zhao Ji swallowed the humiliation silently earlier. As it turns out, he had already sent someone to look for his backup. At this moment, everyone could also guess the reason for Zhao Baiju and Zhao He Tu appearing here. They must have been asked by Zhao Ji to come and deal with Ling Tian. In our mystical sky mansion, only eminent saint stage disciples are qualified to be ranked on the mystical sky ranking. Be it Zhao Baiju or Zhao He Tu, both of their cultivation bases must have already entered the eminent saint stage since they're on the mystical sky ranking. Duan Ling Tian's doomed now that they're here. I know this Zhao Baiju and Zhao He Tu. They're both Vice Mansion Master Zhao's direct disciples. It's said that they're orphans and have been taken in by Vice Mansion Master Zhao to be nurtured since young. In their hearts, Vice Mansion Master Zhao is no different from a father. As the saying goes, if you love the owner, you'll love his or her dog as well. Zhao Ji is Vice Mansion Master Zhao's only biological son. For this reason, they regard Zhao Ji as their own biological younger brother. So they're actually Vice Mansion Master Zhao's direct disciples. No wonder Zhao Ji sent someone to look for them. Tisk tisk, they're two eminent saint stage powerhouses. I wonder how Ling Tian's going to deal with them. Although Ling Tian's powerful, and he's the strongest among the younger generation in the mystical sky mansion, he's still far from being comparable to Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu. That's right, perhaps Ling Tian might be able to reach Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu's level in a few years' time. However, currently, he's no match for them. As the discussion went on, many people were afraid for Duan Ling Tian. When Wang Feizan heard the discussion in the surrounding, she learned about Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu's background. Her expression turned grim as she muttered under her breath, shameless. At the same time, hints of worries could be seen in her autumn eyes. She was really worried about Duan Ling Tian's safety. The reason Duan Ling Tian got involved with Zhao Ji was all due to her. For this reason, she felt extremely guilty. No wonder you dare to injure little junior brother. You're indeed bold. Zhao Heitu's gaze also landed on Duan Ling Tian when he saw how Duan Ling Tian had ignored Zhao Baiju. His eyes were terrifyingly cold and filled with killing intent. It made Duan Ling Tian feel as though he was being targeted by a poisonous snake. However, throughout his life, he had seen many people looking at him with such a gaze. Due to this reason, he was completely immune to it now. Zhao Ji stared at Duan Ling Tian intently. His swollen face had a ferocious expression as he glared at Duan Ling Tian spitefully. He said through clenched teeth, "Senior brother Baiju, senior brother Heitu, I want him to kneel down and apologize to me." Although he was extremely angry, it was not to the point where he had lost his sanity. He itched to kill Duan Ling Tian, but he knew it was impossible now. Otherwise, he would be doomed. Despite his impressive background, he would still be punished for violating the Mystical Sky Mansion's rule if he dared to kill somebody in public in the Mystical Sky Mansion. At that time, even his father and grandfather might not be able to save him. Even if he managed to survive by luck, he would still be expelled from the Mystical Sky Mansion. To Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu, the master who brought both of them back to the Mystical Sky Mansion was like a parent to them. He was someone they respected the most. Today, the only son of their respected master, Zhao Ji, the little junior brother whom they loved on account of his father, had not only been injured but also publicly slapped twice. He had been humiliated. How could they not feel furious? For this reason, the moment Zhao Ji's words left his mouth, Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu rose up into the air in unison. In just a blink of an eye, they appeared near Duan Ling Tian. Whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, the sound of 2 gusts of wind whistled in the air. Wang Pai and another figure had appeared in front of Duan Ling Tian, shielding him. "If you want to touch him, you'll have to go through my, Wang Feizan, dead body." A determined voice resonated from a delicate figure who shielded Duan Ling Tian. It instantly attracted everyone's attention. The owner of the delicate figure had a sexy and seductive body with the face of an angel. It was none other than Wang Feizan. At this moment, she was shielding Duan Ling Tian behind her as though she was a tigress protecting her cubs. She stared defiantly at Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu as though she was not afraid of death. When everyone regained their senses, they broke into an uproar. They did not expect Wang Feizan to act so ridiculously to the point of risking her life for Duan Ling Tian. Not everyone possessed such courage. "Do you think you can stop the two of us?" After Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu heard Wang Feizan's words, they looked at Wang Feizan in shock. After they had gotten over their shock, they dismissed her since they did not think too highly of her. They could tell from their divine consciousness that this female disciple was only at the intermediate refined saint stage. She did not have the ability to stop them at all. When Wang Feizan was standing opposite Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu, a domineering male voice said, "I don't have the habit of letting a woman protect me." Duan Ling Tian appeared in front of Wang Feizan, shielding her. He was planning to step out earlier. However, Wang Feizan's action had taken him by surprise, shocking him for a moment. This was the reason he was late in stepping out. When Wang Feizan stepped out and shielded him, as he looked at her slender and graceful figure, the last of his prejudice toward her disappeared as well. He was touched by her action and had fully acknowledged her as a friend in his heart. "I was the one invited trouble. I'm not going to fold my arms and stand idly by the side." When Wang Feizan saw Duan Ling Tian appearing in front of her, she hastily said, "Don't worry. They won't dare to kill me." Unfortunately, her words were ignored by Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian knew very well that even without Wang Feizan's incident, a petty person like Zhao Ji would not have let him go that easily. The outcome would be the same in the end. Wang Feizan's incident was only a catalyst and expedited things. Due to this reason, he did not feel his dispute with Zhao Ji had anything to do with Wang Feizan at all. As Duan Lingtian stood in front of Wang Feizan, he looked at Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu. His expression was calm, as though the two people standing before him were not at the eminent saint stage but somebody he could easily defeat. Not bad. You're manly enough. However, sometimes, you need to pay a price for showing off in front of a woman. Naturally, even if you didn't show off, the price you'll have to pay is hefty as well. Zhao Heitu smiled. His smile was a little chilling that it sent shivers up people's spines. Zhao Baiju glanced at Duan Lingtian coldly and said in a commanding tone, "Didn't you hear what my little junior brother said? Kneel down and apologize." Zhao Baiju, Zhao Heitu. At this moment, Wang Pai took a few steps forward in the air and stood next to Duan Lingtian. He looked at Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu solemnly. "I'm sure both of you know very well who's in the wrong in today's incident, don't cross the line." "What, you're going to help him and make a move, Wang Pai?" Zhao Heitu smiled sinisterly. "I seem to recall you lost to me previously, right?" When Wang Pai heard his words, he could sense all the eyes in the surroundings shifting to him. His expression turned grim as he replied, "Zhao Heitu, junior brother Lingtian's different from me. It's better for you to mentally prepare yourself if you want to lay your hands on him." "What do you mean?" Zhao Baiju asked with a frown as he looked at Wang Pai. "I'm sure both of you have heard of junior brother Lingtian's innate talent prior to this. As far as I know, even Lord Mansion Master has learned about his existence." At this moment, Wang Pai spoke to Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu through voice transmission so nobody else knew what he was saying. Lord Mansion Master. The moment Wang Pai finished speaking, Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu's expressions turned grave immediately. They knew what Wang Pai's words meant. If Lord Mansion Master had learned about Duan Lingtian's existence, he must be paying attention to him as well. Moreover, he might even take him as his direct disciple. He could possibly be his last disciple. "Both of you are smart, so there's no need for me to spell things out for you, right?" Wang Pai added through voice transmission. Upon hearing that, Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu exchanged a glance before they looked at Zhao Ji and told him what Wang Pai had told them. Lord Mansion Master. When Zhao Ji heard Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu's words, he could not help but frown as well. However, his frown eased up again very soon. He smirked as he said through voice transmission, "Senior brother Baiju, senior brother Heitu, both of you don't have to bother with this. Wang Pai has a good relationship with Lingtian. It's only natural for him to defend Lingtian. As for what he said, perhaps, it's true. But, so what? Even if Lord Mansion Master plans to take Lingtian as a direct disciple, it'll be some time in the future. Don't tell me that Lord Mansion Master is going to seek revenge from us in the future after he accepts Lingtian as his disciple." When Zhao Ji looked at Duan Lingtian again, his eyes were shining with terrifying killing intent. "Moreover, if he kneels down and apologizes to me publicly today, Lord Mansion Master wouldn't accept him as a disciple no matter how much he has taken a liking to his innate talent. How's it possible for Lord Mansion Master to take such a person who has been humiliated as his disciple?" Zhao Ji finished in one breath as a sinister smile appeared on his face. When Zhao Ji's words were transmitted into Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu's ears, it seemed to have given them a boost and a calming effect. Chapter 1754. Indeed, if Lingtian kneeled down and apologized to Zhao Ji publicly, the incident would definitely spread out in the mystical sky mansion after today. Under such circumstances, nobody would have a high regard of Lingtian anymore no matter how high his innate talent was. Even if Lord Mansion Master had the intention to take him as his disciple, he would most likely change his mind after this incident. Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu felt at ease immediately. They ignored Wang Pai's words. Wang Pai's expression turned grim when he saw the murderous gleam in Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu's eyes. He realized they did not fear his warning. He instantly transmitted his voice to them again. "Zhao Baiju, Zhao Heitu, I know both of you want to protect Zhao Ji, but are you really willing to take this risk? Wang Pai, stop bluffing and trying to scare us." Zhao Baiju mocked him through voice transmission. "If Lingtian kneels down and apologizes to little junior brother today, do you think Lord Mansion Master will still take a liking to him when news of this spreads out?" Wang Pai did not expect Zhao Baiju to think like this. His expression turned even grimmer. "Do you think junior brother Lingtian's going to kneel down and apologize to Zhao Ji? You're dreaming. You'll find out very soon if I'm dreaming or not." Zhao Baiju smirked. "Wang Pai, I warn you. It's better to not meddle in this matter. You should know the consequences of offending our Zhao clan's progeny. At that time, even your master, Vice Palace Master Xiaoyi, wouldn't even be able to protect you. What a blatant threat. Faced with Zhao Baiju's threat, Wang Pai's face turned shades of green and white. He knew Zhao Baiju spoke the truth. Due to the presence of the Guardian and the Vice Mansion Master in the Zhao clan could be said to own the entire Mystical Sky Mansion. Whichever Mystical Sky Mansion's disciple who offended somebody from the Zhao clan would usually end up badly. Wang Pai, think carefully. Do you really want to go against our Zhao clan's progeny for the sake of a new disciple? Zhao Heitu looked at Wang Pai and smirked. Senior brother Wang Pai, this incident has nothing to do with you. There's no reason for you to become enemies with them because of this. Duan Lingtian looked at Wang Pai who was standing next to him and smiled. No matter what, I still need to thank you for standing by my side at this moment, senior brother Wang Pai. However, you can just stand at the side and watch how I deal with this myself. When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, he looked at Wang Pai confidently. However, faced with Duan Lingtian's confidence, Wang Pai thought Duan Lingtian was merely acting so he would feel at ease and not feel worried. Junior brother Lingtian, do you think that I, Wang Pai, am the type of person who would abandon my friend in the face of danger and escape on my own? Wang Pai replied with a discontented expression. Based on his words, there was no doubt he intended to stand with Duan Lingtian. Don't forget me as well. Wang Feizan chimed in, wanting to step forward. However, Duan Lingtian waved a hand and forced her to take a step back. Why do you want to join in the trouble? Duan Lingtian turned to glance at Wang Feizan with discontentment in his eyes. When he saw how worried she was, he had no choice but to transmit his voice to her. Don't worry, it's only two early eminent saint stage martial cultivators. I can still handle them. When she heard his words, she was stunned as though she had been struck by a bolt of lightning. Only two early eminent saint stage martial cultivators. If it was another martial cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage who said this, the first thing that would come to Wang Feizan's mind was, what a high-handed comment. However, when these words were uttered by Duan Lingtian, it gave her a different feeling. Although she had only known Duan Lingtian not too long ago, she understood him. She knew if he was not confident, he would not have said such words. A martial cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage can deal with early eminent saint stage martial cultivators. Wang Feizan still could not help but feel this was unbelievable. She felt this was impossible. Even so, Duan Lingtian's confident gaze still made her believe in him. When Duan Lingtian saw Wang Feizan no longer insisted on stepping out, he turned around again. He instantly looked at Wang Pai and smiled. Senior brother Wang Pai, I know you have good intentions, but these two pieces of trash at the bottom of the mystical sky ranking are really beneath my notice. This two trash at the bottom of the mystical sky ranking. The moment these words left Duan Lingtian's mouth, the entire scene fell silent. If these words were uttered by those mystical sky mansion's disciples who were ranked at the top of the mystical sky ranking, most people would not feel anything was out of the ordinary. However, these words were uttered by a mystical sky mansion's disciple who had yet to enter the mystical sky ranking. This gave them a different feeling. What a high-handed comment. Zhao Ji was the first to regain his senses. He said with a smirk, you're a new disciple who has yet to enter the mystical sky ranking. How dare you look down on the powerhouses on the mystical sky ranking? How presumptuous. Zhao Ji looked at Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu before saying with a vicious expression, Senior brother Baiju, Senior brother Heitu, since he looks down on both of you, why don't you two teach him a lesson before making him kneel down and apologize to me? Don't worry, little junior brother. After I let him taste the pain, I'll make him kneel in front of you and obediently apologize to you. Zhao Heitu licked his dry lips as a ruthless smile appeared on his face. He glared at Duan Lingtian fiercely. Boy, I really have no idea where you get your confidence from. Do you really think you can be mentioned in the same breath with an eminent saint stage powerhouse after breaking through to the peak of the refined saint stage and defeating the Luo brothers when they joined forces? When he was on his way here, he had also learned about the incident that had taken place earlier from Zhao Ji's lackey. Zhao Heitu was also a Heaven Palace's disciple, so he had heard of the Luo brothers before. Whoosh! The moment his words left his mouth, Zhao Heitu's figure flashed before it charged directly at the place in front of Duan Lingtian. He came to stop, standing closely before him. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, two sounds of wind whistling in the air sounded. One of the sounds came from Wang Pai moving his body. His figure charged toward Duan Lingtian, intending to deal with Zhao Heitu for Duan Lingtian. Although Duan Lingtian was confident, Wang Pai felt Duan Lingtian was merely trying to put him at ease. He did not think a martial cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage could fight against an early eminent saint stage martial cultivator at all. These two people were at a completely different stage from him. When the latter and the former clashed, the latter could easily crush the former. However, despite Wang Pai's fast speed, there was another person who was even faster than him. When he noticed the person who appeared in front of Duan Lingtian, Wang Pai came to a halt in the distance. At the same time, he stared at the person who appeared in front of Duan Lingtian in bewilderment. Why him? Don't tell me junior brother Lingtian knows him as well. The person who appeared in front of Duan Lingtian was a young man with a huge build with pleasing features on his face. Although he did not look particularly dashing, he gave off a sense of unwavering determination. With just one glance, one could tell this was a brave and unyielding young man. Senior brother Ji Yuli. When Zhao Heitu saw this sturdy young man appearing in front of Duan Lingtian, his expression turned grave immediately. There were hints of dread in his eyes. Why you know Lingtian? Ji Yuli. Duan Lingtian was baffled over the appearance of this stranger in front of him. Moreover, it seemed as though he was helping him. He did not know this person, and he was sure he had never seen him before. When he heard Zhao Heitu's words, only then did he learn this sturdy young man's name was Ji Yuli. Senior brother Ji Yuli. Zhao Baiju's expression turned grave as well when he saw the sturdy young man appearing in front of Duan Lingtian, shielding him. Senior brother Ji Yuli. Senior brother Ji Yuli. At the same time, the mystical Sky Mansion's disciples present on the scene, including Wang Pai, bowed at Ji Yuli respectfully. When the group of mystical Sky Mansion's disciples saw Ji Yuli, they were even more polite and respectful than when they were faced with Xiao Yi, the Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace. Upon seeing this, Duan Lingtian was astounded. It did not cross his mind that the sturdy young man who appeared to be shielding him had such a high position in the eyes of the mystical Sky Mansion's disciples. He could see that when the group of mystical Sky Mansion's disciples bowed at Ji Yuli, they had sincerely conveyed their respect to him. Damn it, how does he know Ji Yuli? When Zhao Ji saw this, his face turned a little pale. Although Zhao Ji was known as the strongest person among the second generation in the mystical Sky Mansion, that was merely the nickname other people gave him due to his background since his grandfather was one of the two great guardians of the mystical Sky Mansion, and his father was the Vice Mansion Master of the mystical Sky Mansion. However, there was one person he dreaded among his peers in the mystical Sky Mansion. That person was Ji Yuli. Ji Yuli was the son of the other mystical Sky Mansion's guardian. Due to the fact that he only had a son in his old age, the mystical Sky Mansion's guardian was extremely fond of his only son. As long as it was something within his power, he would give it all to this son of his. Ji Yuli did not fail to live up to his expectations as well. He was the number one genius to appear in the mystical Sky Mansion in these several hundred years. Naturally, this was before Duan Lingtian came here. Duan Lingtian's innate talent was even more monstrous than Ji Yuli. One could say that he had completely snatched the glory away from Ji Yuli for being the number one genius in mystical Sky Mansion as soon as he arrived. Ji Yuli was in his early 50s. However, his cultivation base had already reached the peak of the eminent saint stage. Ji Yuli was completely worthy of the title of the strongest person on the mystical Sky Mansion's mystical Sky ranking. In the mystical Sky Mansion, as long as a mystical Sky Mansion's disciple had broken through to the divine saint stage from the eminent saint stage, his name would be removed from the mystical Sky ranking and would become an elder. Ji Yuli was the strongest person on the mystical Sky ranking. This meant he invincible to all those below the divine saint stage in the mystical Sky Mansion. When did senior brother Ji Yuli arrive? I didn't notice. Judging from senior brother Ji Yuli's stance, it seems like he intends to shield Lingtian. As it turns out, Lingtian actually knows senior brother Ji Yuli. No wonder he's so calm before this. This is his trump card. The mystical Sky Mansion's disciples who were standing by the side whispered among themselves. They thought Duan Lingtian was so calm since the beginning until the end because he knew Ji Yuli would appear and help him. When Duan Lingtian heard the whispers in the surrounding, he was, naturally, rendered speechless. Prior to this, not only did he not know Ji Yuli, but he did not even hear anyone mentioning his name before. Chapter 1755. Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian took a good look at Ji Yuli. Ji Yuli was a sturdy young man who was 1.9 meters tall. He wore a slightly tight robe that displayed his almost perfect muscles. It was visually impactful. Moreover, the determined expression on Ji Yuli's face gave him a masculine charm. This could be seen in the love-struck looks that many female disciples were giving him. The strongest person on the mystical sky ranking. He's only in his early 50s, and yet, his cultivation base has already reached the peak of the eminent saint stage. Duan Lingtian learned about this from whispering around his surroundings. For a moment, he was shocked as well. However, what was more shocking was the latter part of the discussion. The only son of the other mystical sky mansion's guardian. Only then did Duan Lingtian realize that other than having a high innate talent and powerful abilities, Ji Yuli's background was not simple at all. As it turned out, he was the only son of one of the two great mystical sky mansion's guardians. The two great guardians of mystical sky mansion were powerhouses who were widely acknowledged in the mystical sky mansion. They were only inferior to the mansion master. Although Ji Yuli's background was slightly inferior to Zhao Ji, there was not much difference between them. After all, Zhao Ji only had an additional vice mansion master as a father. Naturally, Duan Lingtian could tell the mystical sky mansion's disciples present respected Ji Yuli not because of his background but because of his prowess. Zhao Ji's background was slightly more powerful compared to Ji Yuli, but just how many respected him? Zhao Baiju looked at Ji Yuli and asked slightly anxiously, "Senior brother Ji Yuli, do you know Lingtian?" Although he really wanted to stand up for his little junior brother and seek revenge for him, he was overwhelmed with a sense of helplessness when faced with Ji Yuli. If Ji Yuli really wanted to protect Duan Lingtian, he and Zhao He too would not be able to do anything. For this reason, he could only pray in his heart that Ji Yuli merely wanted to watch the show and had no intention of helping Lingtian. Although he felt the chances of that happening was zero, he still could not help but hope. "No, I don't." Ji Yuli's calm reply made Zhao Baiju's eyes brightened immediately. Even Zhao He too's eyes brightened as well. Ji Yuli did not know Lingtian. The gloomy clouds that hung over Zhao Ji's head seemed to disperse immediately when he heard Ji Yuli's words. A bright smile immediately appeared on his face. Since Ji Yuli doesn't know him, why would he appear so suddenly? Just to announce to everyone he's here. Zhao Ji felt a little discontented. Senior brother Ji Yuli doesn't know Lingtian. When Ji Yuli's words left his mouth, the group of mystical sky mansion's disciples, except for Duan Lingtian, was dumbfounded as well. They originally thought Ji Yuli was Lingtian's trump card. It did not cross their minds that Ji Yuli would say he did not know Lingtian. It seems like we're wrong. Senior brother Ji Yuli is not Lingtian's trump card. When senior brother Ji Yuli appeared, I thought Lingtian would be able to escape this misfortune. I can't believe senior brother Ji Yuli is not here for Lingtian. Since senior brother Ji Yuli doesn't know Lingtian, there seems to be no reason for him to help Lingtian. Perhaps senior brother Ji Yuli just wanted to reveal himself and watch the show. He probably has no intention of helping Lingtian. Many mystical sky mansions, disciples whispered among themselves. Their eyes were filled with pity as they looked at Duan Lingtian again. In their opinion, since Ji Yuli did not know Duan Lingtian, he was definitely not here to help him. Without Ji Yuli's help, Lingtian, naturally, would be unable to fight Zhao Baiju and Zhao He too even with senior Wang Pai's help. Senior brother Ji Yuli doesn't know junior brother Lingtian. Wang Pai had a horrified expression on his face. His entire person seemed to deflate like a balloon. It felt as though he had fallen from heaven to hell. Although he intended to help Duan Lingtian, he knew his own capability very well. Even with his help, he would be unable to block Zhao Baiju and Zhao He too. Ji Yuli's appearance at this moment was like the light that appeared in the dark that lit up his heart. If Ji Yuli was willing to help junior brother Lingtian, he would definitely be able to emerge safely from this perilous situation. When Wang Pai saw Ji Yuli appeared, he had thought Ji Yuli knew his junior brother Lingtian. However, he did not expect Ji Yuli to not know his junior brother Lingtian at all. Since he did not know him, there was no reason for him to help him. Similar to Wang Pai, when Ji Yuli appeared, Wang Feizan also breathed a sigh of relief, thinking Ji Yuli was Duan Lingtian's friend, and he would help him. Otherwise, why would he appear for no reason? However, a horrified expression appeared on her face the moment Ji Yuli said he did not know Lingtian. Regardless, when she saw how calm Duan Lingtian was from the beginning until the end, standing there indifferently as though the matter had nothing to do with him, she could not help but calm down a little as well. Based on this fellow's expression, it seems like he doesn't know Ji Yuli as well. Then, this must mean the confidence he had before had nothing to do with Ji Yuli. Don't tell me he really has a way of dealing with early eminent saint stage martial cultivators even though his cultivation base is only at the peak of the refined saint stage. When Wang Feizan thought of this, she could not help but look forward to it deep in her heart even though she still found it unbelievable. She looked at Duan Lingtian with bright eyes as she muttered to herself, I hope you're not bluffing. As it turns out, you don't know him, senior brother Ji Yuli. Zhao Heitu looked at Ji Yuli and smiled before his expression turned slightly sour. Senior brother Ji Yuli, this Lingtian is very arrogant. Not only did he injure my little junior brother, but he even humiliated him in front of everyone today. If you can make things easy for us, our Zhao clan will owe you a favor. Slap. As soon as Zhao Heitu's words left his mouth, the crisp sound of a slap reverberated in the air. Nobody saw Ji Yuli made a move, but Zhao Heitu's head suddenly turned to the side and was swollen. Senior brother Ji Yuli, why you? Naturally, Zhao Heitu was furious since he was slapped for no reason. However, he did not dare to show it in front of Ji Yuli so he could only stare at Ji Yuli at a loss and with a wronged expression. Ji Yuli looked at Zhao Heitu mockingly as he asked indifferently, who are you to think that you can put on a sour face in front of me? Who are you to think that you can ask me to make things easy for you? Who are you to think that you're even worthy to represent the Zhao clan? When everyone else, including Duan Lingtian, saw this, they were dumbstruck. None of them knew what Ji Yuli's intention was. He obviously did not know Duan Lingtian, but he actually slapped Zhao Heitu. Although Zhao Heitu's expression turned slightly sour earlier, everyone knew it was directed at Duan Lingtian, who knew Ji Yuli would use this as an excuse and slapped him, saying he was showing him a sour face. It was apparent he had the intention to help Duan Lingtian. Ji Yuli, don't cross the line. Zhao Ji's expression turned grim as he glared at Ji Yuli. Although his strength was far inferior to Ji Yuli, he did not fear Ji Yuli since his background was more superior. However, Ji Yuli did not seem to have heard his angry words. From the beginning until the end, he had ignored him. Zhao Ji was extremely furious that he had almost reached his limit. It seemed as though his eyes were able to shoot fires. Senior brother Ji Yuli, didn't you say that you don't know Lingtian? Unlike Zhao Ji who had no fear since he knew he had a strong backing, when Zhao Baiju looked at Ji Yuli, his face was filled with bitterness and questions. The moment Zhao Baiju's words left his mouth, everyone, including Duan Lingtian, shifted their eyes to Ji Yuli. They were also curious as to why Ji Yuli wanted to shield Duan Lingtian since he did not know him. Who says that I can't help him just because I don't know him? Ji Yuli glanced at Zhao Baiju indifferently as a mocking smile appeared on his face. What, do you have any objection about this? When Zhao Baiju heard this, he no longer said anything. Objection. Naturally, he objected to this. However, did he dare to say this out loud? He was not Zhao Ji. Taking into account his master and the guardian, Ji Yuli would not be ruthless even if he attacked Zhao Ji. However, Zhao Baiju's death would only be in vain if he was killed by Ji Yuli. Although he was willing to die for his master, he wanted to die for a worthy cause. Being killed over this matter was undoubtedly meaningless. Junior brother Lingtian, hurry up and thank senior brother Ji Yuli. At this moment, Wang Pai's voice resonated in Duan Lingtian's ears. Upon hearing that, Duan Lingtian regained his senses. As he looked at Ji Yuli's silhouette, he cupped his hands slightly before his chest. Thank you, senior brother Ji Yuli. Haha, when Ji Yuli heard Duan Lingtian's voice, he immediately turned around and looked at Duan Lingtian and laughed out loud. Junior brother Lingtian, I've long heard about you, but it's a pity that we have no opportunity to meet each other. In order to see you, I intentionally came to Heaven Palace to watch the competition to earn a spot to enter the Saint Martial Secret Zone. Previously, I only know that your martial Dao's innate talent is monstrously high, to the point that it's even higher than mine. However, I don't know you well enough. After all the incidents that transpired today, I realized you really suit my taste a lot. When Ji Yuli reached the end of his sentence, he had a, how regretful we didn't meet sooner, expression on his face. Then I guess it's my honor. Duan Lingtian smiled. Although he did not fear Zhao Baiju and Zhao Heitu even without Ji Yuli's help, Ji Yuli did not know about this so he felt that he owed Ji Yuli a favor. At the same time, the mystical Sky Mansion's disciples present on the scene also finally learned of the reason why Ji Yuli had helped Duan Lingtian even though he did not know him. As it turned out, he even felt it was a pity they did not meet sooner. Between Ji Yuli and Duan Lingtian, the former was widely acknowledged as the #1 genius to appear in several hundred years in the mystical Sky Mansion before this. While the latter was currently widely acknowledged as the #1 genius to appear in several hundred years in the mystical Sky Mansion. The moment the two of them met, they became friends immediately. Just like the saying, birds of a feather flock together. Ji Yuli. At this moment when most people, including Zhao Baiju and Zhao He too, thought the incident was over, Zhao Ji's eyes were filled with fury as he looked at Ji Yuli and said in a deep voice, "Are you intentionally going against me?" Zhao Ji's voice was terrifyingly cold. It was as though it came straight from a thaw hole, making people's skin crawl. Little junior brother. When Zhao Baiju and Zhao He too saw the smile disappeared from Ji Yuli's face and how Ji Yuli's gaze shifted from Duan Lingtian to Zhao Ji, they turned horrified immediately. Chapter 1756. Although they were not worried Ji Yuli would cross the line, he still dared to teach Zhao Ji a lesson at the very least. "Yes, I'm intentionally going against you. So what? Don't tell me you're going to teach me a lesson." Ji Yuli smiled mockingly as he looked at Zhao Ji indifferently. "You." When Zhao Ji heard his words, his face turned green before it paled. However, he could not come up with a retort at all, let alone teach Ji Yuli a lesson. If he made his move, the one who would be doomed was him, not Ji Yuli. With just that bit of strength he possessed, he could not even defeat Duan Lingtian who was at the peak of the refined saint stage, let alone Ji Yuli who was at the peak of the eminent saint stage. "If you dare not, then stop talking in front of me," Ji Yuli said with a disgusted expression. After he looked away from Zhao Ji, he looked at Duan Lingtian and smiled. "Junior brother Lingtian, I'm happy to get to know you. Let's go. Accompany me for a drink." After he finished speaking, he rose up into the air and flew to the distance quickly. Duan Lingtian nodded at Wang Pai, Wang Feizan, and Lu Jian before following Ji Yuli and left, leaving behind only his slowly vanishing elegant silhouette to the crowd. The incident today finally came to an end. After Ji Yuli and Duan Lingtian left, Zhao Ji whose body was trembling in rage let out a loud shout. His tone was filled with fury and discontentment. "Ji Yuli, Lingtian, Zhao Ji, swear that I won't let both of you get away with this. I won't let both of you go." Zhao Ji roared inwardly. If thoughts could kill, Duan Lingtian and Ji Yuli would have long been killed by him. That fellow's really lucky. To think even Ji Yuli would help him. After everything had come to an end, Wang Feizan sighed in relief. To her, this was the best outcome. She still did not feel reassured for Duan Lingtian to personally make a move. Duan Lingtian followed Ji Yuli to his place for a drink. After a round of drinking, both of them had already familiarized themselves with each other. Naturally, this was because Ji Yuli was a genuine person, and this suited Duan Lingtian very well. After 3 rounds of drinking, Duan Lingtian looked at Ji Yuli and asked with a smile, "Senior brother Ji Yuli, is it true you helped me because I'm to your liking?" "Of course." Ji Yuli hesitated slightly before he nodded his head. "Really?" Duan Lingtian stared at Ji Yuli's eyes unblinkingly as though he was trying to search for the answer in his eyes. "Enough. Stop looking." The eyes were the window to one's heart and soul. Even Ji Yuli could not make his eyes lie. When he saw Duan Lingtian staring into his eyes, he gave in immediately. He answered obediently, "The reason I appeared then and helped you is because of Grand Master. Grand Master told me about you and even said that your innate talent is higher than mine. Coupled with your fame in the mystical Sky Mansion, I became curious about you. As it turns out, Grand Master's judgment is right. You're really extraordinary." Grand Master. Duan Lingtian was confused. He did not know who Ji Yuli meant by Grand Master. As far as he knew, Ji Yuli's father was one of the 2 great guardians of the mystical Sky Mansion. He's someone from the same generation as the Mansion Master. His position in the mystical Sky Mansion could be considered as very high. In the mystical Sky Mansion, not many people had a position that was higher in seniority than Ji Yuli's father. However, the Grand Master that Ji Yuli mentioned must have higher seniority than his father. Spirit pool. Ji Yuli spat out 2 words when he saw how confused Duan Lingtian was to give him a clue. "Oh, so that senior's actually your Grand Master." Since Ji Yuli had already given him a clue, Duan Lingtian would be slow if he still could not guess who Ji Yuli's Grand Master was. Ji Yuli's Grand Master was the one-armed man guarding the spirit pool. Then, does this mean that Senior is your master's master? Duan Lingtian asked. He's my father's master. I don't have a master yet. Ji Yuli smiled. My master must be waiting for me in the upper province if the Tao Martial Saint land. You're going to the upper province, senior brother Ji Yuli. Duan Lingtian was slightly taken aback. Yes. Ji Yuli nodded. I'll go to the upper province when my cultivation base has broken through to the divine saint stage. It has always been a goal of mine to go to the upper province. Duan Lingtian nodded. He understood this. In the lower province of the Tao Martial Saint land, Ji Yuli was not the only one with the objective to go to the upper province. Many powerhouses with monstrously high innate talent and were confident all wanted to go to the upper province since that was where true powerhouses in the Tao Martial Saint land gathered. In that place, there were many powerhouses that the lower province of the Tao Martial Saint land did not have. Soon, Duan Lingtian asked. Another year at the most, Ji Yuli replied with a smile. He had a confident expression on his face. He would break through to the divine saint stage in a year at most and head to the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint land. So soon, Duan Lingtian was even more surprised. Perhaps, it's quite fast compared to the others. However, compared to you, junior brother Lingtian, it's not fast at all. I believe you'll definitely be able to break through to the divine saint stage before the age of 50. Ji Yuli deeply admired Duan Lingtian's innate talent. Moreover, he had a very high opinion of him as well. Junior brother Lingtian, do you have plans of going to the upper province after breaking through to the divine saint stage? Ji Yuli asked. Of course. Duan Lingtian nodded without any hesitation. He must go to the upper province, but only after he had broken through to the divine saint stage. With his current cultivation base, he would still need a long time before he could break through to the divine saint stage. He could not afford to wait for so long. He had already made up his mind to head to the upper province once his cultivation base had broken through to the eminent saint stage to look for Ka and his child. It seems like both of us have the same goal and don't plan to waste our time in the lower province. It seems like I'll have to work hard and carve a place for myself in the upper province before your arrival so I can take care of you when you arrive, junior brother Lingtian. Ji Yuli smiled. I believe you'll definitely be able to carve a place for yourself in the upper province, senior brother Ji Yuli. Duan Lingtian smiled as well. Some people might not be friends even though they had known each other for a long time. However, both of them were compatible. Although they had only known each other for less than a day, they became fast friends and sincere ones on top of that. Junior brother Lingtian, when we were at the summit of the Heaven Palace, I saw you fighting the Luo brothers. Your territory and true origin seem to be similar to Li Feng's territory and true origin when he appeared in the Rising Sky Mansions district previously. Could it be that you actually know him? Ji Yuli asked as he suddenly recalled this matter. Senior brother Ji Yuli, how do you know my territory and true origin are similar to Li Feng's territory and true origin? Duan Lingtian asked, puzzled. If someone from the Sky Hurdle Mansion or Raging Wave Mansion felt his territory and true origin were similar to Li Feng's territory and true origin, he would not find it surprising since many people from the Sky Hurdle Mansion and Raging Wave Mansion were present during the Rising Sky ranking battle. However, Ji Yuli was a disciple from the Mystical Sky Mansion. He was neither from the Sky Hurdle Mansion nor the Raging Wave Mansion. When the Rising Sky Mansions district was holding the Rising Sky ranking battle, a friend of mine happened to be there. My friend's a Tao Talisman Master, so he's particularly competent with the Mirror Image Talisman. Due to the reason that the Rising Sky ranking battle was held in the Nimble Chess Set formation in Nimble Valley, ordinary Mirror Image Talismans wouldn't have been able to record what had transpired inside. Ji Yuli explained, although the mirror image talisman my friend inscribed was unable to perfectly record everything that had taken place in the Nimble Chess Set, it could still record some footage. In that footage, I saw Li Feng and his territory and true origin. They're almost identical to your territory and true origin. Not only that, I've heard rumors that you knew Li Feng when you first joined our Mystical Sky Mansion. When Ji Yuli reached the end of his sentence, he paused for a moment and looked at Duan Lingtian, waiting for his reply. Senior brother Ji Yuli, although we've known each other for less than a day, we hit it off right from the start. Due to this reason, I won't hide this from you, Duan Lingtian said. Although they had known each other for less than a day, Duan Lingtian had regarded Ji Yuli as a friend he could be open with. He was also certain Ji Yuli would never betray him. Oh, when Ji Yuli heard Duan Lingtian's words, he became even more curious. To be honest, Li Feng who appeared in the Rising Sky Mansion's district previously is actually me, Duan Lingtian told him honestly. What? It was apparent that Ji Yuli was shocked by his words. Junior brother Lingtian, what's going on? As far as I know, whether it's you or Li Feng, both of you did not have any trace of disguise at all. I've seen Li Feng's appearance through the mirror image talisman before this. He's ordinary looking, completely different from your handsome appearance. That's because I know a disguising secret tactic that allows me to change my appearance by using my true origin, Duan Lingtian spoke slowly as the muscles on his face began to shift. In the end, under Ji Yuli's shocked gaze, he transformed into an ordinary-looking young man. Ji Yuli was not unfamiliar with this ordinary-looking young man. He looked exactly like Li Feng whom he had seen in the mirror image talisman previously. I can't believe there's actually such an amazing disguising secret tactic in this world, Ji Yuli praised him when returned to his senses and gave him a thumbs up. Junior brother Lingtian, is there any reason you disguised yourself when you joined the Rising Sky ranking battle? Ji Yuli found this a little strange. Senior brother Ji Yuli, the reason I joined the Rising Sky ranking battle was due to, since Duan Lingtian did not intend to conceal Li Feng's identity in front of Ji Yuli, he disclosed everything that happened with Han Shuinai to him. I see. After listening to Duan Lingtian, Ji Yuli finally understood Duan Lingtian's reason. In that case, this Shuinai girl must be extremely grateful to you since you killed Xu Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, and allowed her to escape from the marriage arrangement. Xu Jing's not dead. Duan Lingtian shook his head. His eyes shone coldly when he thought about Xu Jing. How's that possible? Upon hearing this, an expression of disbelief appeared on Ji Yuli's face. Although the footage my friend recorded through the mirror image talisman wasn't that clear, I saw you piercing the place between Xu Jing's brows with a sword, it's impossible that he's not dead. Chapter 1757. Although Ji Yuli was not present during the Rising Sky ranking battle, he saw the incident that had taken place that day through the mirror image talisman his friend had recorded. Although the footage was not very clear, he still managed to witness how Duan Lingtian killed Xu Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. His sword had pierced the space between Xu Jing's brows. Even deities would not be able to save him. Due to this reason, when Duan Lingtian said Xu Jing was not dead, Ji Yuli immediately refuted it. Duan Lingtian was not surprised by Ji Yuli's reaction. With a smile, he asked, Senior brother Ji Yuli, have you heard about the soul congregation technique? Soul congregation technique. When Ji Yuli heard his words, he was stunned. Then, he narrowed his eyes and looked at Duan Lingtian in bewilderment. Junior brother Lingtian, you mean, Xu Jing, the young mansion master of the Rising Sky Mansion, mastered the soul congregation technique? Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. How's it possible? I've never heard of any devil cultivators in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land that cultivates a devil Dao cultivation method that contains the soul congregation technique at all. As far as I know, those devil Dao cultivation methods that contain the soul congregation technique are all amazing. They're only usually found in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Ji Yuli had heard of the soul congregation technique before, but he found it hard to believe when he was told that somebody in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land actually found out about the soul congregation technique. There's no absolute in this world, Duan Lingtian sighed before saying, Senior brother Ji Yuli, since your friend was present at that time, I'm sure you've heard about Xu Jing's progress in a short span of a year. Yes. Ji Yuli nodded. I heard from my friend that Xu Jing had gone to the peak of the refined saint stage from the early refined saint stage in just a year. Don't tell me that it's because he cultivated an amazing devil Dao cultivation method that he made such huge progress. When Ji Yuli reached the end of his sentence, he finally pieced the puzzle together. The devil Dao cultivation method that he cultivates must not be an ordinary one. However, even if a person uses shortcuts when cultivating the highest grade devil Dao cultivation method in the Dao Martial Saint Land, it'll still be impossible to break through 3 consecutive stages in just a year. Imagine being an early refined saint stage devil cultivator and rise to become a devil cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage in just a year, Duan Lingtian said with a grim expression. For this reason, I suspect that Xu Jing must have cultivated some extraordinary devil Dao cultivation method. That devil Dao cultivation method might even be one of those heaven-defying ones. Otherwise, his cultivation base wouldn't have risen so quickly. Naturally, this is only my speculation. If my speculation is wrong, then it means he must have had some shocking fortuitous encounter. Shocking fortuitous encounter in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Ji Yuli shook his head. Compared to the latter, I think the former is more likely. He must have cultivated some brilliant Devil Dao cultivation method. I don't know much about Devil Dao cultivation methods, so I'll ask my Grand Master later if there are any Devil Dao cultivation methods that contain the soul congregation technique. Grand Master has lived for a long time, so he knows more than I do. However, since Xu Jing did not die, why did the Rising Sky Mansion let the news of his death spread out and didn't refute it? Ji Yuli found this very strange. This is not hard to deduce, Duan Lingtian replied. It's because Xu Jing has cultivated a Devil Dao cultivation method that contains the soul congregation technique. That's how he escaped death. If news of this spread out, it wouldn't be good for the Rising Sky Mansion. Why didn't I thought of this? Before Duan Lingtian could finish his sentence, Ji Yuli interrupted him. He finally understood now. If the news of Xu Jing being alive spreads out, someone will definitely be able to connect his survival to the soul congregation technique. That soul congregation technique only exists in those brilliant Devil Dao cultivation method. Once the news of Xu Jing mastering that kind of Devil Dao cultivation method spreads out, the Rising Sky Mansion would definitely be targeted. At that time, even quasi-third-rate forces like our mystical Sky Mansion would also be interested in the Devil Dao cultivation method that Xu Jing mastered. We might even try to snatch it, let alone the other fourth-rate forces. Ji Yuli was not an idiot. After he listened to Duan Lingtian, he managed to piece the puzzle together. Exactly. Duan Lingtian nodded before chuckling loudly. The people from the Rising Sky Mansion are not idiots either. So what if they're not idiots? There's no wall that's absolutely impenetrable in this world. No matter how much they try to hide this fact, we still found out, didn't we? Ji Yuli smiled before looking at Duan Lingtian. Then his smile faded, and a solemn expression appeared on his face. Junior brother Lingtian, I learned about this from you, so I'd like to ask your opinion about me telling this to my father so that he can inform the mansion master. If that Devil Dao cultivation method is really evil, then it's better for the mystical Sky Mansion to safekeep it than let it spread outside. If it's not an evil Devil Dao cultivation method and is only a high-grade Devil Dao cultivation method, then it would undoubtedly be a great gain for the mystical Sky Mansion. Ji Yuli looked at Duan Lingtian solemnly when he reached the end of his sentence. Senior brother Ji Yuli, before I give you a reply, there's a question I must ask you. Duan Lingtian's expression turned solemn as well as he stared at Ji Yuli earnestly. Ask away. When Ji Yuli saw the solemn expression on Duan Lingtian's face, he became serious as well. I want to know if it's discovered that Xu Jing was indeed cultivating a Devil Dao cultivation method that's really evil, would the mystical Sky Mansion let anyone cultivate that Devil Dao cultivation method if they obtain the cultivation method? Duan Lingtian asked. Although the Dao Martial Saint Land had always been ruled by the strong, and killing and being killed was the norm here, there were some Devil Dao cultivation methods that were utterly evil and inhumane. Any ordinary and sane person would not be able to accept it at all. No, Ji Yuli shook his head. Junior brother Lingtian, you've just entered the mystical Sky Mansion not long ago. Perhaps, you don't know about this, but many years ago, during the battle against those inhumane Devil Dao cultivators in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, the ancestor of our current mansion master of mystical Sky Mansion was one of the powerhouses who was on the side of justice. For this reason, as long as mansion master is still around, nobody would be able to cultivate those kinds of Devil Dao cultivation methods even if we manage to get our hands on it. Lord Mansion Master will never allow it, Ji Yuli said. When Duan Lingtian heard his words, he felt at ease. In that case, I don't have any objections about this. Come to think of it, this is great news for me as well. It would be fine if the Rising Sky Mansion obediently cooperates with the mystical Sky Mansion, but if they don't, then I'm afraid what awaits them is only annihilation. Whether they cooperate or not, they'll still be annihilated no matter what, Ji Yuli replied as his eyes gleamed. Oh, Duan Lingtian was dumbfounded. They would still be annihilated even if they obediently hand over the Devil Dao cultivation method. All the Rising Sky Mansion's members who know about the Devil Dao cultivation method won't be spared. After all, even if our mystical Sky Mansion manages to obtain the Devil Dao cultivation method, we wouldn't want anyone to know about it. There are still the Mountainshade Black Market and the Azure Cloud Mansion above our mystical Sky Mansion in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. If they know we've obtained that devil Dao cultivation method, they would definitely want a share as well, Ji Yuli said. As the saying goes, a man's wealth will only bring his ruin due to others' greed. I'm sure you're familiar with this saying, junior brother Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian nodded. It was precisely because of this the Rising Sky Mansion was going to be targeted by the mystical Sky Mansion. Although the Rising Sky Mansion was a fourth-rate force, it was nothing in front of a quasi-third-rate force. Due to the reason Xu Jing had cultivated the Devil Dao cultivation method that contained the soul congregation technique, Ji Yuli went to see his father in a haste. For this reason, Duan Ling Tian soon parted ways with Ji Yuli and returned to his own place. 10 days later would be the day the Saint Martial Secret Zone opens. Duan Ling Tian was looking forward to the opening of the Saint Martial Secret Zone in 10 days' time. Naturally, what he was looking forward to was those divine ability relics inside and the hardships and dangers he would encounter during the journey to search for the divine ability relics. It was like a test. As far as he knew, ancient formations would be everywhere in the Saint Martial Secret Zone. Basically, all of the divine ability relics had layers upon layers of tests that was set up in ancient times. Only those who passed the test and survived until the end would be able to obtain the divine ability relics. If more than one person found a divine ability relic, these people who have to fight until the end to compete for the ownership of the divine ability relic. The Saint Martial Secret Zone is the secret zone left behind since ancient times. It's said that one could create clones and roam in the Saint Martial Secret Zone using the clone. Once it's killed, the clone would shatter and the soul would return to one's body. At the same time, one would be eliminated as well. This was also one of the reasons why Duan Ling Tian was looking forward to the Saint Martial Secret Zone. Clone projection. What kind of technique was that? Duan Ling Tian found it hard to imagine, but at the same time, he was slightly eager to try it. It's said that the Saint Martial Secret Zone has existed since ancient times, but nobody knew exactly when. At the very least, the Saint Martial Secret Zone mentioned in the books in the library in the main mansion of Mystical Sky Mansion had no information about it. It's uncertain when the Saint Martial Secret Zone began to exist, and who was the one who opened it. Ever since he left the main mansion's library, he had been looking forward to the Saint Martial Secret Zone. Now that he had obtained the opportunity to enter the Saint Martial Secret Zone in 10 days' time, he could not help but feel excited. Moreover, it seems like I don't have to deal with Xu Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, anymore, Duan Ling Tian muttered to himself when he recalled his conversation with Ji Yuli. Now that Mystical Sky Mansion was going to interfere, the Rising Sky Mansion would not have a good ending, and the main person, Xu Jing, would not be able to escape death as well. A divine saint stage powerhouse who specialized in cultivating spiritual energy and divine consciousness would be able to cast the soul-searching secret tactic and make a person reveal all his secrets. Naturally, such a divine saint stage powerhouse was rare. If it was a powerhouse at the exemplary saint stage or above, even if he did not specialize in cultivating the spiritual energy and divine consciousness, he would still be able to cast the soul-searching secret tactic easily. With the soul-searching secret tactic, there was no need to worry that Xu Jing would not say a single word. Once he had spoken, his life would also lose its value since the Mystical Sky Mansion would never let him go. Chapter 1758. In the Mystical Sky Mansion, although there are no divine saint stage powerhouses who specialized in cultivating spiritual energy and divine consciousness, there was no lack of divine saint stage powerhouses at all. For this reason, performing the soul-searching secret tactic was not an issue for the Mystical Sky Mansion. However, the Saint Martial Secret Zone will be opened in 10 days' time. Even if the Mystical Sky Mansion wants to make their move on the Rising Sky Mansion, I'm afraid it would have to wait until we come out from the Saint Martial Secret Zone. The opening of the Saint Martial Secret Zone would be personally presided by the Mansion Master of Mystical Sky Mansion. Set aside the fact that the Mystical Sky Mansion would not be able to do anything to the Rising Sky Mansion due to the Saint Martial Secret Zone's opening, the Mystical Sky Mansion would also need to spend some time to come up with a strategy to deal with the Rising Sky Mansion. Although the Rising Sky Mansion was inferior to the Mystical Sky Mansion in terms of strength, as a fourth-rate force, it was quite powerful as well. If the Mystical Sky Mansion confronted them directly, the Mystical Sky Mansion would definitely win, but they would suffer heavy losses as well. Naturally, it still would not affect the foundation of the Mystical Sky Mansion. However, if the Mystical Sky Mansion was well prepared, it would be able to deal with the Rising Sky Mansion with minimal damage on their side. This was the prowess of a quasi-third-rate force. Wait a minute, Just as Duan Lingtian extended one leg into his room, a voice resonated from behind him. It was a female voice. Without even the need to turn around, he knew whose voice it was. It was none other than Wang Feizan. Is there any matter? Duan Lingtian turned around and smiled as he looked at her. After the incident today, Duan Lingtian had completely regarded Wang Feizan as his friend in his heart. Although she was a woman, her accomplishments had surpassed many men. When faced with Zhao Baiju and Zhao He too, Wang Feizan already knew she was not their match, but she still stepped out to defend him. When Wang Feizan saw Duan Lingtian smiling at her, her delicate face flushed immediately. Naturally, she had noticed the change in Duan Lingtian's treatment of her. This was undoubtedly something worth being happy about. Actually, it's not an important matter. I just want to ask you if you knew senior brother Ji Yuli prior to this. Wang Feizan asked. No, Duan Lingtian shook his head. Then, does this mean what senior brother Ji Yuli said was true? That he didn't know you at all prior to today, and that the reason he helped you was because of your innate talent, and he likes your character. Wang Feizan believed Duan Lingtian's words. Due to this, her eyes widened, and she had a shocked expression on her face. Well, it's not entirely because of that. Duan Lingtian did not intend to hide the truth from Wang Feizan. You must remember the senior who guards the Heaven Palace's spirit pool, right? He's senior brother Ji Yuli's father's master. This makes him senior brother Ji Yuli's grand master. It's because that senior mentioned me to senior brother Ji Yuli and praised me that he became curious about me. Today, he came to see me in action. When he appeared to help me, it was also because he has taken a liking to my character. Duan Lingtian finished his sentence in one breath. That senior is actually Guardian Gu's master. When Wang Feizan heard his words, she could not help but gasp. Her voice trembled when she spoke. It was obvious she was greatly surprised. Guardian Ji Yu was Ji Yuli's father. He was also one of the two great guardians of the mystical sky mansion. In the mystical sky mansion, the two great guardians' positions and strength were only inferior to the mansion master. After a while, Wang Feizan finally returned to her senses. She looked at Duan Lingtian again and said, "There's another reason I came looking for you, it's that other person from the Sky Hurdle Mansion. Similar to Ren Fei, he didn't get the spot to enter the Saint Martial secret zone. For this reason, I'm afraid you won't be able to return the favor you owe their senior." All right, Duan Lingtian nodded. He was not entirely surprised by this since he had his doubts if the other person from the Sky Hurdle Mansion would be able to earn a spot to enter the Saint Martial secret zone. I only came to inform you of this, I won't bother you anymore. Cultivate properly, and I'll see you in 10 days' time. Wang Feizan bade farewell to Duan Lingtian after she finished telling him the information she had. Duan Lingtian also returned to his own room and entered the third level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda immediately. 10 days outside was equivalent to 50 days inside the third level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. That was almost 2 months' time. 2 months were enough for Duan Lingtian to further elevate his cultivation base and comprehend the Supreme Sword Dao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword. While Duan Lingtian was cultivating, the seemingly tranquil on the surface mystical sky mansion was seething with chaos underneath. After Ji Yuli parted ways with Duan Lingtian, he went to look for his father, Ji Yu Siyun, one of the two great guardians of the mystical sky mansion. Lear, is there a reason you came looking for me in such a rush? If another person had disrupted his cultivation like that, he would be furious. However, since the person who interrupted his cultivation was his only son, not only was he not angry, but he spoke to him warmly with a smile on his face. Father, I don't mean to interrupt your cultivation. However, there's a matter that's extremely important that I need to speak to you about. When Ji Yuli reached the end of his sentence, his expression was solemn and earnest. Oh, what's the matter? Ji Yu Siyun knew his only son very well. If it was not an important matter, his expression would not be this solemn. Perhaps, Ji Yu Siyun was affected by Ji Yuli because his expression turned grim. Faced with his own father, Ji Yuli, who had Duan Lingtian's permission, did not hold back and told his father everything that Duan Lingtian had told him, including his speculation. Shu Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. A Devil Dao cultivation technique that contains the Soul Congregation technique. Ji Yu Siyun narrowed his eyes when he heard Ji Yuli's words. As one of the mystical sky mansion's two great guardians and Ji Yuli's father, Ji Yu Siyun, naturally, had a wider knowledge than Ji Yuli. He also knew more about the soul congregation technique. He knew that it was a technique that could grant a devil cultivator a second life. In the Tao Martial Saint land, the devil Tao cultivation methods that contained soul congregation technique were extremely rare. Moreover, it was almost impossible to be found in the lower province. They were usually found in the upper province. However, he just found out from his son that such a devil Tao cultivation method had appeared in the lower province of the Tao Martial Saint land. Guc Yun's breathing immediately quickened. If such an evil and inhumane devil Tao cultivation method really existed here, it had to be destroyed immediately. If it was not evil or inhumane, it would undoubtedly be a great gain for the mystical sky mansion if they obtained it. Perhaps the mystical sky mansion would be able to produce many powerful devil cultivators through this devil Tao cultivation method in the future. They might even be able to rise to the level of the Mountainshade Black Market and the Azure Cloud Mansion and become a force that could stand at the summit of the lower province of the Tao Martial Saint land. To an ordinary person, a quasi-third-rate force was a force that stood at the summit of the lower province of the Tao Martial Saint land. However, in actual fact, only two forces were able to stand at the summit of the lower province of the Tao Martial Saint land, and it was the Mountainshade Black Market and the Azure Cloud Mansion. Chapter 1759. This matter is of utmost importance. I must personally report this to the Lord Mansion Master, Guc Yun said solemnly. Lear, follow me to see the Lord Mansion Master. Yes, Father, Gu Li replied before following Guc Yun to see the current Mansion Master of the Mystical Sky Mansion. At the same time, Zhao Ji had also arrived at the main mansion of the Mystical Sky Mansion. He immediately went to look for his father to complain. Father, Gu Li has really gone too far in bullying me. Zhao Ji stared at the middle-aged man in front of him with a humiliated and resentful expression on his face. There were hints of hatred in his eyes as well. And that new disciple, Ling Tian. How dare he slapped me twice in front of everyone. Not only did he not respect me, but he has no respect for you either, father. The middle-aged man was wearing a light green long robe and resembled Zhao Ji by 50 to 60%. He was none other than Zhao Ji's father, Zhao Dang, one of the vice mansion masters of Mystical Sky Mansion. What's going on? Zhao Dang was originally someone who would side with people on his side regardless if they were right or wrong. Zhao Ji was his only son. He became instantly furious after listening to Zhao Ji's words. Zhao Ji became excited when he saw how furious his father had become. This was because he knew his father would seek revenge on his behalf now that he was angry. Due to this reason, he quickly recounted what had happened. He did not mince his words. He didn't even try to hide his good-for-nothing personality. Naturally, he was so relaxed because he knew even if he told the truth, his father would still seek revenge for him. In his father's eyes, even if he killed someone, his father would clean up the mess for him and deal with everything, let alone the small act of bullying someone. Ji Yuli didn't know him but still helped him. Zhao Dang's expression turned grave when he heard his son's story. If it was some other Mystical Sky Mansion's disciple, he would have long asked one of his men to teach that person a lesson. However, that person was Ji Yuli. Ji Yuli was not only the strongest person on the Mystical Sky ranking, but he was also the only son of Guc Yun, the Mystical Sky Mansion's guardian. Guc Yun only managed to have a son when he was old, so everyone in the Mystical Sky Mansion knew just how much he doted on Ji Yuli. If he wanted to make his move on Ji Yuli, Guc Yun would definitely get even with him for all he was worth. Although he was a vice mansion master of the Mystical Sky Mansion, he was still far from being comparable to Guc Yun in terms of position and strength. Guc Yun was someone at the same level as his father. It's impossible Ji Yuli didn't know him. Zhao Ji said furiously. Father, think about it. If Ji Yuli really doesn't know Ling Tian, why would he stand up for him for no reason? Even if it was just as Ji Yuli said, he didn't know Ling Tian and only helped him because he likes his character, but Ling Tian slapped me twice and humiliated me publicly. Would he have dared to act like that if he has no backing? In fact, he was not facing me, he was facing senior brother Baiju and senior brother He too. He's a mere martial cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage, and yet, he was able to maintain his composure in front of senior brother Baiju and senior brother He too. What else can it be if it's not Ji Yuli backing him? When Zhao Ji reached the end of his sentence, he became even more furious. Zhao Dang looked at Zhao Ji and said in a deep voice, you know Ji Yuli's background. Even I won't be able to make a move on him. I know that, father. Zhao Ji nodded his head angrily. It's okay if you can't do anything to Ji Yu Li since his father is guardian Ji Yu after all. However, when I think of how Ling Tian escaped unharmed, I'm unable to stomach the insult. So what if his innate talent is slightly higher? He doesn't even have any position yet. What happens when he's given a position in the future? Wouldn't he be even more daring then? He already dared to slap me twice in front of everyone without any position. What's he going to do if he's given a position? Wouldn't he be stepping on my head then? Zhao Ji paused for a moment as he looked at Zhao Dang and continued to say anxiously, "Father, please tell me that Lord Mansion Master is not serious in wanting to take Ling Tian as his direct disciple. If he really becomes Lord Mansion Master's disciple, not only would he surpass me in strength, but he would surpass me in terms of position as well. With the way he acted today, I won't be able to stay in the mystical sky mansion anymore if he gains the upper hand." When Zhao Ji reached the end of his sentence, he lowered his head. His expressions were one of bitterness and helplessness. Zhao Dang did not notice that when Zhao Ji lowered his head, a wicked look flashed across his eyes. Humph! When Zhao Dang heard how wrong Zhao Ji was, his expression turned cold immediately. He's only a new disciple who just entered our mystical sky mansion. To think he's already so arrogant. Wouldn't it be worse if he gains the upper hand? Father, I don't want to leave the mystical sky mansion. Zhao Ji lifted his head with tears brimming in his eyes, looking extremely pitiful. Jer, don't worry. Since Ling Tian's so blind as to go against you, I, as your father, naturally, won't just sit back and watch. However, Ling Tian's innate talent is indeed remarkable. It's truly a waste if we have to kill him. When Zhao Dang reached the end of his sentence, his opinion changed a little. Father. When Zhao Ji heard his words, he became anxious immediately. Based on his father's words, it seemed as though he did not have the heart to seek revenge from Ling Tian. How could he possibly not feel anxious? Jer, don't worry, he has already offended our Zhao clan for treating you like this. Even if your grandfather and I love a genius, there's no way we'll let him enter the Zhao clan. Such a genius would undoubtedly be a latent danger to us if he doesn't enter our Zhao clan. When Zhao Dang reached the end of his sentence, his eyes gleamed coldly. We must get rid of such latent danger. We must kill him before he has grown into his full potential. When Zhao Ji heard how resolute Zhao Dang's words were, he sighed in relief inwardly. Things were developing in the direction he was expecting. Father, you've yet to answer my question. Zhao Ji tensed up as though he was reminded of something as he asked, did Lord Mansion Master really take a liking to his innate talent and wants to accept him as a disciple? Jer, I won't lie to you. There's an 80% possibility that Lord Mansion Master will take Ling Tian as his direct disciple openly after all of you come out from the Saint Martial secret zone. Moreover, it might be the last disciple he'll ever accept. Zhao Dang answered solemnly. Last disciple. When Zhao Dang's words entered Zhao Ji's ears, it was as though a bolt of lightning had struck him. The Lord Mansion Master's last disciple. He knew what this meant. Father, he can't. We can't let him become Lord Mansion Master's last disciple. Zhao Ji was completely panicking. He could imagine how the title of the second-generation strongest person in the mystical sky mansion would change owner to Ling Tian if he became the last disciple of the Lord Mansion Master of mystical sky mansion. Moreover, with their dispute, would Ling Tian let him go so easily? Jer, don't panic. When Zhao Dang saw how panicked Zhao Ji was, he reassured him. Even if Ling Tian wants to become Lord Mansion Master's direct disciple or his last disciple, all of this will only be decided after all of you come out from the Saint Martial secret zone. Now, go and look for your great senior brother and tell him I require his presence. I have my own plans. Yes, father. Although Zhao Ji did not know what plans his father had, he still obediently went to look for his great senior brother. Zhao Ji's great senior brother was the eldest disciple under Zhao Dang's command. At the same time, he was also ranked third on the mystical sky ranking. Just like Ji Yu Li, he was a martial cultivator at the peak of the eminent saint stage. Naturally, although he was a martial cultivator at the peak of the eminent saint stage as well, his prowess was much inferior compared to Ji Yu Li. Zhao Ji's great senior brother was called Wei Wei. He was a middle-aged man with a compact build. His eyes brimmed with vigor, and he had a pair of thick eyebrows that made him look imposing. Master requested for my presence. When Wei Wei found out that Zhao Dang was looking for him, he did not dare to dally and immediately stopped his cultivation to follow Zhao Ji to see Zhao Dang. During the journey, he asked, little junior brother, do you know why Master's looking for me? Great senior brother, I think father requested your presence because he wants you to seek revenge for me, Zhao Ji replied. What happened? Wei Wei's expression turned grim immediately as anger burned in his eyes. To think someone actually dared to bully his little junior brother. How daring of that person. As Zhao Dang's eldest disciple, Wei Wei's respect towards Zhao Dang had reached a level where he worshipped Zhao Dang like a deity. It was precisely because of this, he had always doted on Zhao Ji, Zhao Dang's only son, and regarded him as his biological younger brother. When he heard that Zhao Ji was bullied, and this matter was even made known to his master, how could he not be furious? After listening to Zhao Ji's story, Wei Wei's expression turned even grimmer. I've heard of Ling Tian as well. Initially, I thought our mystical sky mansion is going to have an amazing person, but it did not cross my mind he's so arrogant. If he grows into his full potential in the future, it might not be a good thing for mystical sky mansion as well. However, it's obvious Ji Yuli has some relationship with him since he shielded him. With Ji Yuli's presence, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for me to make a move. Although Wei Wei wanted to teach Ling Tian a lesson and seek revenge for his junior brother, he would not be able to make a move if Ling Tian was under Ji Yuli's protection since he was no match for Ji Yuli at all. Great senior brother, I've already thought about this. However, since father asked to see you, I'm sure he has a plan. Zhao Ji had already thought of those things that Wei Wei said. Still, he chose to believe in his father. All right, I believe in master. Wei Wei nodded his head. He believed in his master unconditionally. Master. However, when Wei Wei went with Zhao Ji to see Zhao Dang, just as he bowed at Zhao Dang, a slightly rushed voice resonated from outside before Zhao Dang could even reply. Lord Vice Mansion Master, Lord Mansion Master requires your presence immediately. The voice said. Upon hearing this, one could tell it was urgent. Due to this reason, Zhao Dang left immediately. However, before he left, he did not forget to look at Wei Wei and Zhao Ji. Wei wait here for my return. I'll go and see Lord Mansion Master first. Chapter 1760. Yes, Master. Yes, Father. After Wei Wei and Zhao Ji watched Zhao Dang left, they waited obediently at Zhao Dang's residence for his return. They waited until an entire afternoon had gone by. However, both of them did not dare to complain. Only when the sun had set, and evening had arrived did Zhao Dang finally return. When he returned, his expression was as usual. There was neither joy nor anger that could be seen on his face at all. Father, you're finally back. When Zhao Ji saw Zhao Dang had finally returned, he was excited. Now, can you tell me how you're planning to let great senior brother deal with Ling Tian for me? Put aside Ling Tian's matter for now. Zhao Ji, who was excited, only got this as a reply. The moment Zhao Dang's words left his mouth, he no longer bothered with Zhao Ji, who had a dismayed expression on his face. He instantly looked at Wei Wei. There's no longer any matter. You can return for now. Yes, Master. Although Wei Wei had no idea what happened to make his master dismiss the idea of dealing with Ling Tian, he still listened to his master. He left immediately to his own residence in the main mansion after he responded to Zhao Dang. When Wei Wei left, Zhao Ji opened his mouth to speak, but before he could speak, he was already cut off by Zhao Dang's glare. Zhao Ji was not an idiot. Naturally, he knew his father had some misgivings now. For a moment, he only obediently kept quiet. However, there were hints of curiosity and discontentment in his eyes. Zhao Ji could no longer hold back after he waited for Wei Wei's silhouette to disappear. He looked at Zhao Dang and asked anxiously, Father, what's the matter? You even sent great senior brother away. On top of that, why should we dismiss the matter regarding Ling Tian for now? He humiliated me publicly. That's equivalent to humiliating you, Father. I know you hate Ling Tian to the core, and in truth, it's not that I don't want to kill him. Zhao Dang shook his head before asking, do you know why Lord Mansion Master asked me to see him so suddenly? Don't tell me it's because of Ling Tian. Upon hearing Zhao Dang's questions, Zhao Ji's expression turned dismayed. Don't tell me that Lord Mansion Master actually gave an order to protect Ling Tian and told you not to interfere with the matter. It's not that. Zhao Dang shook his head. Lord Mansion Master asked me to see him in such a hurry is mainly because of the Rising Sky Mansion. However, Ling Tian has gained a lot of credit in this matter. If the Zhao clan makes things difficult for Ling Tian at this moment, Lord Mansion Master won't be happy about it. Before I returned, I've already discussed this with your grandfather. We won't touch Ling Tian for the moment. Everything will be put on hold until the matter with the Rising Sky Mansion is dealt with. Grandfather, he knows about this as well. Zhao Ji's eyes were as wide as saucers. When I was summoned by Lord Mansion Master today, your grandfather and a few Vice Mansion Masters were also summoned. Naturally, Ji Yun and his son were there as well, Zhao Dang replied. Ji Li was there as well. Zhao Ji frowned. Although I don't know what the mystical Sky Mansion plans to do to the Rising Sky Mansion since Lord Mansion Master had summoned our mystical Sky Mansion's 2 great guardians and the few Vice Mansion Masters, I'm sure it's not a small matter. However, what right does Ji Li have to be there as well? This is because it was Ji Li who informed Ji Yun about the matter. Only then did Ji Yun went and reported it to Lord Mansion Master, Zhao Dang answered. Father, you've talked for so long, but I still don't know what's going on. What's the matter that caused you to postpone dealing with Ling Tian? Zhao Ji asked curiously. He really could not think of what Ling Tian had done to merit this. It's like this, although the Mansion Master of Mystical Sky Mansion told Zhao Dang and the others to keep this matter a secret, Zhao Ji was different from Wei Wei. He was Zhao Dang's only son after all. For this reason, Zhao Dang did not intend to hide the truth from him. He told Zhao Ji about how Xu Jing, the young Mansion Master of Rising Sky Mansion, had cultivated a high-grade Devil Dao cultivation method. Soul Congregation Technique, Reincarnation, High-grade Devil Dao cultivation method. Zhao Ji's breathing quickened when he heard this. If he could cultivate such a Devil Dao cultivation method, he would be able to elevate his strength in such a short amount of time as well, right? It might even be possible for him to surpass Ling Tian. After all, Xu Jing, the young Mansion Master of Rising Sky Mansion, was able to reach the peak of the Refined Saint stage from the early Refined Saint stage in just the span of 1 year because he managed to obtain that Devil Dao cultivation method. If I can cultivate that Devil Dao cultivation method, it won't be a problem for me to break through to the eminent stage in just a year. Zhao Ji felt very confident about this. When Zhao Dang saw his son's eyes brightened, how could he not know what he was thinking? He immediately reminded him, it's alright if that Devil Dao cultivation method that Xu Jing cultivated is a normal one. You'll definitely stand a chance to cultivate it. However, if Xu Jing cultivated an evil and inhumane Devil Dao cultivation method, Lord Mansion Master would never allow anyone to cultivate it. Zhao Ji nodded, but his heart told a different story. I don't care whether it's inhumane or evil as long as I can gain power. So what if everyone in this world has to die if I can raise my strength and surpass Ling Tian? This was Zhao Ji's truest thought. As long as he could raise his cultivation base, he was not bothered about the techniques or the consequences. Father, what do you all plan to do now? Zhao Ji began to have covetous thoughts toward the Devil Dao cultivation method that Xu Jing cultivated. Due to this reason, he kept asking about the matter and when they were going to the Rising Sky Mansion to snatch Xu Jing's Devil Dao cultivation method. Lord Mansion Master has not said what we should do for now. We'll most likely have to wait until all of you come out from the Saint Martial secret zone, only then the Lord Mansion Master will be free, Zhao Dang replied. Lord Mansion Master plans to personally make a move. Zhao Ji was taken aback. In fact, the Mansion Master of their mystical Sky Mansion had not personally made a move for many years now. However, this time, he was going to personally make a move. The other party's the Rising Sky Mansion, so if Lord Mansion Master doesn't participate, we'll suffer heavy losses even if we emerge victoriously. The Mansion Master of the Rising Sky Mansion is not inferior to your grandfather. In our mystical Sky Mansion, only Lord Mansion Master alone can overpower him, Zhao Dang replied again. The power of a fourth-rate force was quite extraordinary as well. Moreover, although the Rising Sky Mansion was only a fourth-rate force now, it was once a quasi-third-rate force after all. Such a fourth-rate force was, naturally, stronger than most ordinary fourth-rate forces. Jer, I know you hate Ling Tian, but now isn't a good time to deal with him. If you want to deal with him, it better to wait until the matter with the Rising Sky Mansion is dealt with, Zhao Dang warned Zhao Ji as he looked at him. Father, I'm afraid Lord Mansion Master would have already taken Ling Tian as his direct disciple or his last disciple if we wait until then. Didn't you say so earlier yourself that there's a big possibility that Lord Mansion Master would take Ling Tian as his direct disciple or his last disciple after we come out of the Saint Martial secret zone? When Zhao Ji heard Zhao Dang's words, he panicked immediately. Jer, I understand your feelings, but after all of you come out from the Saint Martial secret zone, the Lord Mansion Master's first priority won't be taking Ling Tian as a disciple or last disciple but to go to the Rising Sky Mansion to snatch the Devil Dao cultivation method that Xu Jing, the young master of Rising Sky Mansion, had mastered, Zhao Deng reassured him. Zhao Ji nodded his head. He felt slightly at ease now. Moreover, even if Ling Tian really becomes Lord Mansion Master's direct disciple or last disciple, don't tell me that Lord Mansion Master is going to stay by his side all the time to protect him. As long as he dares to go out alone, it'll be as easy as killing a chicken for the Zhao clan to kill him. When Zhao Deng reached the end of his sentence, his tone was filled with confidence. Now that I have your words, I'm not worried anymore, father. Zhao Ji put his mind at ease. All right, Jir, what you should think of now is not your hatred toward Duan Ling Tian. Instead, you should prepare yourself. You'll be entering the Saint Martial secret zone in 10 days' time. I hope you can comprehend a high-grade divine ability relic, and if you manage to enter the divine saint stage in the future, you'll be able to master that divine ability and have a shot at becoming the next mansion master of our mystical sky mansion, Zhao Deng said as he looked at Zhao Ji with anticipation. No one else has achieved this in our Zhao clan. For this reason, I hope you'll become the first person in the Zhao clan to master the divine ability relic inside the Saint Martial secret zone after breaking through to the divine saint stage. Father, I'll work hard and not let you down, Zhao Ji pledged solemnly. Apart from you, there are 4 people from the Zhao clan who earned a spot to enter the Saint Martial secret zone this time. However, the strongest among them is only at the early refined saint stage at most. If you have any strength to spare, please help them accordingly. If you don't have any strength to spare, then it's okay to just take care of yourself, Zhao Deng said solemnly. He did not wish for his son to miss a high-grade divine ability relic for the sake of others. Understood, father. Actually, there was no need for Zhao Deng to remind him since Zhao Ji was originally a selfish person who would use unscrupulous methods to get what he wanted. Naturally, Duan Ling Tian was unaware that while he was cultivating while waiting for the Saint Martial secret zone to open, he was saved because of Xu Jing, the young mansion master of the Rising Sky Mansion, who cultivated the Devil Dao cultivation method. Naturally, even if Wei Wei, Zhao Deng's eldest direct disciple, made his move, he might not be able to make things difficult for Duan Ling Tian since he had the Jasper Celestial Sword with him. However, although he possessed the Jasper Celestial Sword, he did not dare to use it in front of others. The temptation of the Jasper Celestial Sword was not inferior to the Devilseal Tablet at all. Unless he was on the brink of death, he would not take the Jasper Celestial Sword out in front of other people. Without using the Jasper Celestial Sword, he was not a match for Wei Wei. Perhaps Wei Wei would not dare to kill him since he was afraid of violating the mystical Sky Mansion's rule, but he still could severely injure him. If he was severely injured, it would affect his abilities. Moreover, it might affect his gains when he entered the Saint Martial secret zone.